Okay, why?
Oh God, could we not do the Trump v. Biden debate? I wanted to do something different.
Why? Okay. Which? Sure,
You
sure,
debate the
sure,
border.
sure. I don't
Oh,
want to
so
debate
the
the
border.
border.
Oh, I have to tell you something about the
We did the
border.
border. It's just going to
Yeah.
turn to a Trump v. Biden debate.
When Liv was using your statistics the other day, the ones that you pulled up for me, he only mentioned the 7 trillion, right? The 7 trillion, and he didn't do the division by 10 and then the subtraction. So I had to go up there and like fix the numbers up a little bit.
I just want to set
I
the
mean, at
record
the end of the
straight,
day,
real
Yeah,
quick.
there was still a net benefit, but it wasn't the net benefit of 7 trillion.
I
That
want
was
to set the record straight. I don't like Biden. I will not be voting for Biden. I just want to set that record. I would. There was an insinuation that I was a Biden lover, and I really want to make sure that we remove that insinuation from the
yeah,
panel.
keep that one to yourself, Dana.
Yeah.
what the
We
insinuation.
don't want
Okay.
we don't want Biden either.
Okay, but you do. I don't know about this. What's
No,
your
I do
name?
not.
Javon, is that your name? I don't know
Thank
about
God,
him.
Lord. I don't
But
know why
you
nobody did say
clearly,
it.
when I hear things like Biden drug his nuts across conservatives' face on
What's
the
that?
State of the
Because he
Union.
did.
I'm sorry.
What's that?
What?
That's true.
Have you heard Itchy and that's their little saying that Biden is such a badass?
I think that what we have to understand is that black people aren't a monolith, right? And that
That's why I said
ultimately
Jones. That's why I said Baby
and
Jones.
ultimately, right? We're gonna have different viewpoints on Biden, but I think collectively as black and brown people, we can all agree that we're not fucking with Trump. Because like, why should we vote in support of a white supremacist? Hey, Jovan, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Hey, would you dine with a smarty if you knew that person was a smarty?
Would I dine with them?
Yeah, like would you have a burger and fries and shit?
Nope. Unless
Hey,
I can poison the burger and fries, then yes.
Baby Jones, Dantrell, would y'all like, you know what I'm saying, dine with a with a white nationalist, for example?
How
I
much
don't
is
know
he
what you're talking
paying?
about. I get what you're talking about. I figured out what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
like I don't think
How much is he paying?
exactly.
Nah, just playing.
Don Trump said I go to Candace Owens for a check.
Mm-hmm.
Can
If
I
she
you
mean,
pays me
hey,
good,
I would
I'll give her the
would
I
you
best
would
guys
actually
5
go to
minutes
go
of her
Candace
life.
Owens for money.
would you guys go and I know would you dine with Donald J. Trump? If you had an invitation right now
No.
for
Why
an
would I?
Oh,
invitation from
hell no.
So I can
Hell
listen
Mar-a-Lago.
to
no.
him. So I
Hey,
can
I'm
listen to
different
him
than that.
fart
This is
into
why
his
black people
diaper
are
the
not a
whole
monolith,
time.
right? Because
No, so I'm asking
I would take that invitation, and I
You
would
have to
wear. I'm
take
gonna
the
tell you
invite.
exactly what I would do.
You
I
have
would
to.
take one of those like cameras and like the Ray-Ban glasses and shit like that. And what I would do is I would sit there and I would talk my shit to that motherfucker. And I would tell him all the things that we can't really say to his face, but we be saying on his app. I go say that shit to his face, and then flip over my fucking plate of that goddamn KFC chicken and the McDonald's that the motherfucker be eating
no, the
and
one who
walk
bought
out.
KFC was
I do
Biden.
that shit just to make
Hey,
a
the one
statement
who did the
because
KFC
my
chicken
book is finna
was
drop. Like
Biden.
I do that shit just because my book finna drop. I go in there and I cause a ruckus just so people to come buy my book, just to exploit that bigot. Because I believe that, and I genuinely believe this. I believe in making money on bigots, and that brings me to this point. That listen, there are 291 people in here. Tap the screen. Tap the
Yeah.
fucking screen. Listen, and I will tell anyone on this panel anything that you want. I am suspending the $20 to kick. I am suspending the $5 to mute. But the $5 to read any message and ask any question that anybody has for motherfuckers like Gorilla, I will absolutely do it. I want y'all to know this. All
Oh,
right.
I'm eating chicken. Why did y'all mute me? I'm sucking on chicken bones over here.
All right, what's the debate topic? What are we doing?
All right.
Hey,
So
hey,
so
wait,
now
wait, wait, wait. Why wouldn't you dine with the Schnazi just to debate them, just to see where
Why
they're
would
coming
no,
from
I'm
and
not
I would
see?
saying I
never
would
I
debate.
don't
That's not what
debate
I
I don't
said. But let's
debate
go to the
Nazis.
debate topic. Like, listen, I genuinely want to know, Gorilla,
It's
what
just
do you want to talk about
closed-minded,
in the
right?
background?
All of you.
Gorilla, background.
Bro,
Let's
was
get
that
to it.
for real? Was that for real?
Yeah, he is for real.
Hold on, Liv. Can I address that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't debate people that are literal Nazis or literal claims to be fascist because all it does is it harms the communities that I try to protect by like allowing a voice like that to be heard. So yeah, I don't do that because I'm like serious about my advocacy work.
The same thing that Liv was saying about Trump. You would be able to say your piece, tell him to
I
fuck
don't care
off.
about saying my piece to a Nazi.
Well,
Well, it
They're
sounds
Nazi.
like
They don't have the moral. They
what
don't
if
have
you
the
can
moral high
change their
ground.
mind?
I don't
I
want
mean,
to change
Nick
the mind of a
Fuentes has
Nazi.
said some pretty crazy shit. I don't think.
Jovan, I think you just got uninvited to Gorilla's family reunion.
Totally
that
fine
answer.
with that. Weird take. I don't think Nazis deserve a seat at any table, whether they change their mind or not. They were still Nazis.
Okay, here's the question though: would you take a position in Trump's cabinet?
No.
I got a
Of your
question for
choice.
you. No,
Why? So I
got
could be
a question
fired
for
a
you.
year later?
Jovan, I have a
No.
question for you. I have a question
Yeah.
for you. We were talking about this earlier. This is a great topic for Gorilla and Dana. Now, do you believe that Schmatzi should have a voice in our society under the Second Amendment? I mean, the
Second
First
Under the
Amendment.
first? No, because
First
I don't
Amendment.
believe that
First
we should.
Amendment.
I don't believe in freedom of speech. So no.
Yeah. Dana?
We've already had this discussion.
No,
Yeah, I
not
think
with Jovan though.
Okay,
So,
yes,
Dana?
I do think that. I don't think we should police people's thoughts, and I think the best way to combat bad
Go
ideas,
back up your head.
the best way to combat bad ideas is with good ideas. So by shutting people down, all that's going to happen is they're going to be talking about it anyways, right? And it's going to be festering, and it's going to be like, it's going to probably even get bigger. So a lot of, like, even, who was it that was up on this panel the other day? Oh, dang it. Shoot, oh, it was Daniel, not on this panel, but he was talking about a former white supremacist who like turned out like years later to be like, he was really young and then years later turned out to be a huge advocate for the black community. And I was like pushing back. I was like, I think he's not genuine.
No,
But I
that'd be
thought it
Robert Byrd. Robert Byrd did that.
No, it wasn't Robert Byrd we were talking about. I forgot who.
I think the idea that the best way to tackle bad ideas over good ideas is kind of wild and kind of nonsensical to me. They didn't win World War II with like big ideas. They won it by blowing the heads off of Nazis.
Not
So
really. I mean,
what?
I mean, like, have you heard of Alan
I got
Turing?
bullying for some
had a
reason.
good idea.
I
Drop
got
it
bullying.
back, Gorilla.
All right.
That isn't
Drop it
entirely
back.
true.
You're
And there
talking
was a
about
lot
the
of
Turing test?
no,
got
that's
it,
not,
too.
no. What
Do
he
you
the
think
Turing test
we're
was-
winning World War II without like D-Day? Without like, do you think we're winning
Yeah,
World War
D-Day
II without?
absolutely won it, but that took a lot of D-Day. I mean, they were coding back and forth. They were
Yeah,
talking in code,
hold
and they
on,
probably
but
used.
none of those codes would have mattered if we didn't go over there and shoot up some Nazis.
Yeah, there had
None
to
of
be
the codes would
violence.
have mattered.
My point is this whole thing, like when it started out originally in Germany, all these ideologies and stuff. If there had been other people, it was kind of like a brainwashing. If there had been other
There
people
were,
to combat,
there were. The Nazis killed them. The first thing the Nazis did was they killed anybody, specifically socialists, because Hitler had a burning
Yeah.
hatred for socialists.
Okay,
the
so
first
hang
thing
on.
they did was kill
I want to
people
say
with
one
the
thing.
opposite ideals.
So you
Unalive.
subscribe. So what they did was they
Unalive.
silenced ideas that they didn't agree with, right? So they also didn't believe in free speech.
Nazis were socialists.
No,
They weren't.
I don't. No, they weren't.
They were.
Anybody who says that is quite literally. I don't have a word for how dumb that would be.
They were.
The word is
They weren't.
MAGA.
I mean, you can.
Hold on one second.
Hold on. Define socialist for me, please.
Let's let this dialogue happen between. I don't want the over talking for real, but Ed made that statement, so let's let Ed and Jovan have that.
Well, and hey, can we not report? Because
no reporting, people. Listen, if y'all have an issue with people on the panel, everybody on this panel, right? I want up here. If you have an issue, you can pay the $5 to mute them. You can pay the $20 to boot them for 10 minutes. But we're not gonna report. I'm gonna reinstitute the whole menu.
And
we're not reporting people. Like that shit weak as hell. We want to have this dialogue. We want to have this debate. Y'all want to see this. So now we need everybody to really tap this screen. We need to get up to 100K because we just had a flag. Can we not do that? Go ahead, Jovan.
Hey, real quick. I would like to answer the question, too, about freedom of speech for Nazis. I believe so. Just like the pro-Palestinian people that are being arrested also should have the right of freedom of speech. And fun fact, I watched a video of the unalives of all the countries in World War II, and I didn't realize that the most unalives were China. At 20 million people were unalived in World War II from China. Anyway, that's all.
So, like, when you brought up the people being arrested right now for being pro-Palestinian, I actually do think that they should have freedom of speech and be able to do that. But that's not what they're being arrested for. Like, you can go in the middle of any campus and say, "I don't like Israel," and not get arrested. They're getting arrested for like vagrancy and like vandalism and like destroying the campuses they're on. Like, that's the reason that Columbia got shut down and they had to do like classes from the internet now, even though people have to pay $90,000 a year to go there. Like, they're not like arresting people because they said mean words about Israel.
Okay, I agree. You're probably right, but the optics are that they're being shut down for their speech.
All right, so listen, y'all. I want to go back to Javon and Jovan and Ed. Javon, and Jovan.
Right. So when you want me to explain, or when you want me to just define socialism, are you talking about Marxism, Ricardian socialism, classical economics? What do you mean? Do you want to talk about like fucking Blancois? I don't know. Like, what do you want to talk about when you talk?
Yeah, I
about
think I think this isn't. This
are you
isn't
just talking about
obvious.
your
This is a
socialism?
pretty big
The socialism
obfuscation.
that you like?
Yeah, this is a pretty big obfuscation. Like, you could just give a definition and we'll talk about give whatever definition you want to on socialism, and we'll talk about whether that definition fits in with what the Nazis actually were and what Hitler's actual beliefs were.
All right, so I guess socialism, as in like the democratic socialism that the National Socialists use, would be more about like robust social programs for all the citizens of the country.
Sure, well, I would disagree that they did robust social programs for all the citizens in the country. That sure didn't happen.
Well, I mean, the people that
they liked.
The victims of the Third Reich weren't lost their citizenship when those things happened to them. So they did it for all the citizens, actually, unfortunately, but they just happened to not do it for the people that they were victimizing, which makes sense, considering that those were their victims. But they were certainly a socialist project at the very least. Like, I didn't say
I would again disagree with this. I would again disagree that they were a socialist project like at all. Hitler staunchly believed that Marxism, which is what many would view under the any pragmatic view of socialism to be the foundational building blocks of socialism. He believed Marxism was this terrible, disgusting thing. Like, he specifically said that they are patriotic, which Marxist socialism is not. Their socialism is strictly a national thing. It has nothing to do with any country outside of them. He unalived actual Marxists at the time, actual Marxist socialists. So you simply can't say they're socialist because they were heavily nationalist. Like, that's not a thing.
Hell yeah, dude. Fucking the USSR definitely wasn't nationalistic at all. They definitely didn't have a bunch of pro-USSR propaganda throughout every
The USSR wasn't solely nationalist. The USSR wasn't solely nationalist. They reached out to other socialist countries to help them. I don't like a solely nationalist would be that they avoided all of these other countries. Like, they weren't solely
The USSR was the nation, though. It was the overarching nation. They were clearly nationalists. They were clearly pro what they were doing. Like, to say otherwise is just intellectually dishonest. We have the propaganda. We can still just look at it.
If the USSR was nationalist, why did they help Cuba so much? That's not nationalism. Nationalism is not helping the country on the other side of the globe.
Germany were so fascist and nationalist. Why did they help Japan so much? Why did they help Italy so much?
I would disagree
ridiculous question. It's a ridiculous question.
I would disagree that Germany really helped Japan. They used Japan as an axiom for their war. I would disagree that they helped Japan completely. However, the USSR specifically reached out and helped Cuba during times of embargo. They specifically gave aid to Cuba. Aid and using somebody's political power to try to help you win a war is two completely different things.
Right. You do know, I want to go to this for a sec. You do know Stalin sided with Hitler before Hitler invaded Russia. He made the mistake of turning on him. Well, you did know
Okay,
that
what does that have to do with anything we're talking about right now?
because you were saying that how you were talking about like the Allied for the you were talking about how Hitler was allegedly helping Japan, and well, you guys were talking about
You're not
Hitler
going to
doing
say his real name, Dana.
The
That's one of
the
them
German
words that get
Soviet,
flagged.
it is pretty much widely agreed upon in like from like every historian that the German Soviet pact was like two enemies basically going, let's not F with each other. So I don't know where this is like they sided with each other. Stalin and Hitler hated each other.
Yes,
Could
no,
not stand
but
each other.
Italy and Japan truly did side with them. These were actual treaties between countries that sure didn't seem isolationist within those treaties, within the confines of those treaties. So unless you're willing to acquiesce to that on some level, you're just being
I already addressed
dishonest.
this. I already addressed this. I said there's a vast difference between a country using another country during a time of war, which was by all accounts from the minute the Third Reich showed up, it was a time of war. So a country siding with another country during a time of war, and a country giving aid to a country where there is no war happening. These are two vastly different things.
Are you
I would say a
pretending that the
country can side.
USSR wasn't angling for Cuba to be under the flag of the USSR?
Absolutely, I would say they weren't. Yeah, 100%. Do you have any proof of this?
I'm sure that's incorrect, but
Okay, I'm sure that's incorrect is not a rebuttal, right? I could say to anything you say, well, I'm sure that's not correct. That's not a rebuttal, right?
So
I only
Jovan,
deal in hard truths.
if the majority of the Schnazis are anti-capitalists, which they were, unless you're reading some crazy Twilight Zone history book, what were they then?
Were the Nazis anti-capitalist?
They were, and that's a fact. So
Sure,
what
cool.
were they
I would
if they
say that
weren't
there is a
socialists?
there's a difference between like a totalitarian state and a socialist state. A socialist state, by its very nature, needs to be a state that is focused on the worker, right? The Nazis weren't focused on the worker; they were focused on the Nazi Party. They were focused on their overarching state being a tool that's used against the people, whereas under socialism, the state would need to be a tool used for the people. Those are two completely different things.
So it was just a con game. The whole Socialist Party was a con game to get
Yes,
into power.
Hitler even said this in an interview in what was it, 1939? He even said as much, that it was that the use of the term National Socialist was because he knew that that would get people to side with him. Yes. I think it was an interview he gave in, I don't have the exact date. I can try to find it. 1930, I want to say 39, but I might be wrong about the date. But 23, sorry, 1923.
So it was totalitarianism, not socialism at all.
Yeah, in order to be socialism, the whole first point, a part of socialism is social, right? Socialism is by all definitions. Even if you get into Stalinism or Maoism, they just disagreed on how you get to how you achieve socialism. But all socialism, at the very crucial understanding, is the workers gaining ownership over the means of production. No ownership of the means of production were going to go to the workers under the Nazi parties. Just none. The state took control of the means of production.
What, the chicken?
Hold on.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all keep going.
Okay, yeah.
Y'all go ahead.
But yeah, like it's really talking out of both. Well, I don't know you particularly, so I'm not going to say you're talking out both sides of your mouth, Jovan. But a lot from the left I hear is talking out of both sides of your mouth. Like China isn't real socialism, but they're doing real good with their socialist policies. Like, and
Yeah, I disagree when people on the left say that there are socialist policies. I don't like that term. I think that term misleads people into what socialism actually is. Most people, like China, would be China currently is mostly capitalist. They have some social policies and social reform, but China is the second largest capitalist market in the world.
Right,
Yeah, and
and
then I also
they
want to
have
point
a
out. I also
rudimentary
want to
free
point out that.
market.
One second. I also want to point out that absolutely China is capitalist, but they have collectivist policies that have quite literally lifted, like what is it, uh, a large majority of their population out of
Well, right. Well, of course, also the borderline for poverty in China is $2.70. In America, it's like $6.40.
Wait, there was 800 million. I'm just looking. It was 800 million people out of poverty with
So
their collectivist policies.
there's a different level. It only counts for
I
them.
wouldn't compare China. I wouldn't compare. Like, I think it's disingenuous to compare China to like America, right? When we talk about the poverty level in America versus the poverty level in like I don't know,
I mean,
like
it
the
would be
Congo, like that
disingenuous
would be
because they
different
don't
analogies, right? But
they
when we
don't
talk
compare
about the
them.
poverty, what I'm saying is that if we talk about poverty, I think we should talk about poverty within that region, what that poverty looks like, right? So we talk about poverty in China. If 800 million people are lifted out of poverty in China, like to compare that to like the United States would be just disingenuous,
Well, I don't
right?
like using poverty as a metric for
Yeah,
success in any regard because poverty is a wholly capitalist metric.
exactly.
So
And
I tend to
capitalism
not use
creates
it.
poverty. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Do you think we'll ever get past capitalism, like on the whole? Like, yeah, I know a lot of people use terms like late stage capitalism, stuff like that. But do you actually believe this, or are you just like LARPing?
Yes, I believe that. I believe that there's two ways that we can see a genuine removal of capitalism globally. One would be a mass worker revolution, specifically a mass worker protest. Um, it would take a lot of organization that I don't know that we're ready for yet. But I think as we continue to move forward in the internet age, that we will see that mobilization, as long as we don't allow governments to do like what ours is doing with the TikTok ban. Or it's going to come down to um, so much frustration with the system that there is a France-style revolt against the bourgeois. Uh, I could see this happening in a post-COVID world. I don't know what would be the final snapping point for people, but I could see this happening. Couldn't have seen this happening pre-COVID, but a post-COVID world I could see happening.
Right. I mean, we had this conversation before. Me and Liv did. I just see like the reformation of capitalism more than anything else. I just see capitalism having more checks and balances added to it, and then once again the cycle will complete. Like once again, corporations will eventually run amok, and then it'll happen all over again. But I think capitalism is probably eternal at this point, and it probably should
The
be.
the Marxist position is that capitalism will always lead to corporatism or crony capitalism. My position specifically is that capitalism has never worked and even with all the checks and balances in the world, the only way for a country like America to maintain its constantly growing capitalism is to inflict that harm, is to pass the harm onto another country, specifically the things we do in the global south in places like Latin America, in places like the Congo, in places like hey, we've destroyed in order to maintain. We've destroyed countless countries. We've killed so many people. We've spent billions of dollars doing it, and that's the only way we're able to maintain the growth and the expansion that capitalism calls for. I don't believe this to be something that can be reformed because even if, like I said, it's working here, that means it's not working somewhere else.
Well, Joanne, I still want to know if Germany during World War II
One
controlled the
second. One
means of
second. One
production.
second. One second. One second. One second. Before you go to that, hold that point, Gorilla. Can we let Ed respond to Joe Bob?
Well, there's nothing to respond to. That's just his hypothesis, and I understand
Yeah.
why he's making it, and I understand, I understand how the ideas of Karl Marx and that communism is just essentially the end stage of capitalism. It starts at capitalism, goes to socialism, ends at communism. I get it. I just don't agree. I just think it's all kind
Well,
of
how,
silly.
what do you like with the trajectory that we're on? Like, what's the other option? If we stay on this trajectory, all of the wealth will move to the 1%, like all of it. Like it's
Right.
not getting
It
getting
already
better.
has, though, RTP. It already
Yeah.
has. I mean, what was it between 2019 and 2022? 63% of all new wealth generated went to 1% of people. So it already is.
Well,
Right. And
that's the
there's
thing, though. Like, I do think that, like, I look at it more less of like I look at it more as like an oligarchy because that's what it is, and I do think that there'll probably be something akin to a revolution, but I think it'll end up more like the French Revolution, which ended in capitalism, pretty much the initial stages of capitalism, if you actually track it back, than like some like White Russia day.
Wait,
Like,
how would that work? Like if you're fighting against the people with all the capital, right? That's who you'd be fighting against, and you think the end result of that is capitalism, meaning you just think they're going to win?
no, I think that people would stick with capitalism. Like,
How
I think
who
even
would stick
after like
Wait, but who would stick with it?
Well, when I say capitalism, I just mean rudimentary free markets. Like, I don't think people are going to be like, all right, let's all like try
Okay, but
some.
if only
So
1% of the people
just
already
really quick.
have all of the wealth, if they already have all the wealth, right? And that's when you now have a revolution, that why would they ever give that wealth back?
I just wanna touch on that real
Because
quick, RTP.
they would either be afraid or they'd be dead. Like,
So
that would pretty
So
much.
really quickly, overwhelmingly, people never choose capitalism. It's just that the U.S. has gotten really good about cooing any country that democratically elects a socialist. Like this is why I brought up Latin America earlier.
Mhm.
Chile democratically elected a socialist leader. The U.S. backed a coup, and then Pinochet got rid of Allende. Venezuela democratically elected a socialist leader. The U.S. interfered and killed thousands of people in
Yes,
Venezuela.
but all those places
Haiti,
were
Puerto
still
Rico.
democratic socialists. Those are places that still had
No.
storefronts. They were still
Democratic.
places that
Hold
had
on.
free markets.
Because the socialism never got a chance to get off the ground because the U.S. came in. Allende's uh, presidential compound, like the place that the Chilean president lived, was bombed a week after he was elected into office. They don't have time, and the only country that's been able to survive U.S. interference has been Cuba, and we've seen based on the way Cuba structures its election, based on what's the word I'm looking for? Based on the metrics, any quality of life metric almost, Cuba is essentially the only successful socialist country that's kind of existed, right? Even with the U.S. consistently for, what's it been now, 70 years, placing them under embargo.
Well, there is I would say that the lack of leftists trying to run to Cuba is a damning indictment on it being successful as a socialist program.
I would
And it,
disagree with this because
and
when we're looking at quality of life metrics, the only ones in Cuba that are going to come up negative are the ones that are happening due to U.S. interference. Cuba has a higher life expectancy than us. They have a lower infant mortality rate than us. They have 100% literacy and they have more doctors per capita. But their economy is destroyed because the U.S. controls trade in and out of Cuba with a massive embargo, and the U.S. has been doing this since the 70s, and the CIA has released documents where they admitted to the fact that they have been interfering in Cuba's economy to try to start revolution from inside the country so that a capitalist will take over. That's why they attempted 600 plus assassination attempts on Castro. They know that Cuba is a problem because it interferes with specifically the sugar trade. This idea that Cuba is failing because of Cuba is nonsense. It's failing because of us.
well, I think it's nonsense that you would say that the people wouldn't choose capitalism when the pilgrims landed on this country. Weren't they trading for wampum? Wasn't that what they chose? Free trade?
Free trade isn't
When the pilgrims
capitalism. That's
and when the
different.
pilgrims landed, there was no trade.
Well,
This is
they
widely
only
understood
owned.
that. Hold on, this is widely understood that when they were trading with like indigenous tribes didn't have this concept of trade good for currency, right? They just gave because that's kind of how these tribes worked. Capitalism takes. Capitalism doesn't then redistribute or give back.
But well, like even though I don't agree with the pilgrim analogy because that was kind of different, they did live probably closest to true socialism with the natives for as long as they could. Because when you have a very small population, that's when socialism and communism works the best. Like that's probably when it only works at all. But like at that point in time, that was a great idea to be socialist with the natives. But the way that America turned out, what they eventually did pick was capitalism. They did pick free markets. And they would do it again. It would happen again.
It took
Like people.
it took some heavy propaganda campaigns to make that happen, though. It took demonizing and making basically anybody illegal in this country that claimed to be a socialist or a communist. It took an all-out war from people who inspired Schmittler. Yeah, that happened, but it wasn't just like all honky dory and the whole nation's like, yay, capitalism. No, if you were against capitalism, you got attacked by the capitalists, and they would do anything.
Right.
Yeah,
So
and
I
that
think
goes
what you're
to
talking
that would
about
also
is
go to
is
one second,
the.
Ed. But that would also go to like the United States foreign policy, like after, like specifically after McCarthyism, and even going into like with the Red Scare, and then we can look at the Cold War, and more specifically, just the Cold War. United States had compartmentalization policies. So like one of the things that led to like the starvation under Mao was because they had a flawed agricultural system, and then after that, the United States said, "Fuck that! We're not letting any imports even go into y'all. We're gonna starve your people out. We're gonna exclude you from the rest of the world." That was the United States imposing their will, that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Right. So here's the thing, though. You're getting way ahead of me, though, and we can definitely have that conversation as well. But what I'm talking about when I say they chose capitalism, I mean from 1776 to the Gilded Age, and that's what RTP brought up, which I agree. There were the anarchist movements. There were, I think the guy who was it Rutherford B. Hayes that got assassinated,
But you
or
can't say that though.
I can't,
That's because that's ahistorical.
or
Right?
Garfield,
Because
right?
again,
Garfield's the one who got.
capitalism was born out of the transatlantic slave trade and the exploitation of black and indigenous people globally. More specifically, not even globally, but more specifically in the Americas and Africa and Australia. So if that is what capitalism was born out of, black and indigenous people didn't have a choice and did not choose capitalism. And I want to point out that even today, white people make up less than 12% of the population globally. We didn't choose that.
I also want to
Slaves weren't the only
piggyback.
thing. Slaves weren't the only people. Well, they were the only people sold in capitalism. Slaves weren't the only. I don't want to call people products, but that's okay. Slaves weren't the only
But
products
again,
sold under capitalism in 1776. That wasn't the
that's not the
base
birth
of
of capitalism.
capitalism. That's
That's not
just
the
untrue.
Really quick before
Go
we get
ahead.
too far for it, I just want to address at how Ed, I think it was Ed or I don't remember who specifically said it. You guys have very similar voices, by the way. Uh, it was said that people are never going to choose. People are always going to choose capitalism, but we know this to be untrue. Prior to the Cold War, America had a huge socialist movement. There was Eugene V.
Yes, Eugene V. Debs. Yes, I know about the. I was just bringing that up. The Gilded Age socialist movement, the anarchist movement, the explosions in Chicago or whatever. Like I know about it. I know history.
But the fact that a socialist candidate for president received 1 million votes while in prison, it goes to show that like the American people like the idea of socialism. They even like the practices of socialism. The problem is that America specifically has done a very good job of convincing people that don't know what socialism actually. Or let me rephrase that. They've done a good job at convincing people to be incorrect about what socialism is, specifically when it comes to socialism and communism as a whole here. But when it comes to pre-Cold or post-Cold War, the CIA released documents where they talk about the fact that America has a full misunderstanding on the subject of communism, and this
I agree,
misunderstanding of
100%.
what this is what leads to capitalist propaganda being so effective.
And Liv can be my witness. I actually have a rudimentary understanding of socialism and communism, Marxism. I call people out when they try to do that Red Scare shit on my side. I tell people the difference between fear mongering and actually using socialism, socialist programs. So I agree with you. There are people, most people I would liken to say, that are woefully ill-informed on what socialism actually is in America. That does not make it any better of a system. It just makes them wrong. Like,
Could I ask you just a question? Like, do you recognize in America that there's a real problem where like the collection of capital is between virtually a handful of people? Do you recognize
Yes,
that
that's
as a
why I
problem?
believe in trust busting. That's why I
Okay,
believe
so
in
hold on,
using
hold on.
eminent domain on like BlackRock
hold
and
on,
Vanguard.
hold on. It wasn't a gotcha. I just wanted to see where you're at on that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, no.
okay, yeah. So if you believe that that's a problem, if we don't change capitalism, what's going to keep them from taking all of the capital?
No, I agree that capitalism needs much stronger checks and balances. I even agree on like some aspects of like I'm not like a taxation is theft guy. Like I'm libertarian, but like only about like life choices. I'm not libertarian about like you don't need to pay in your fair share or anything like that. I'm with you there, but all
I
those
get it, but
things
how do you do that under capitalism?
Okay,
Like when all the
RTP,
power is
do you mind
consolidated.
if I
Tony,
add just-
Tony, I'm talking to Ed real quick.
I know, but can I just add
no,
something?
Tony,
It's a
I've been
very
here for like an
valuable
hour.
question for you.
Tony, I've been here for like an hour. You can wait your turn.
go on.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part that you were saying.
I was just saying that it would just lead on to reformation with things like, like eminent domain on like monopolies and things like that. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with giving a fuck you to the corporate overlords, the corporate oligarchs of the world. I don't necessarily.
Do you think that's realistic though? Like given where the capital is now and where the power is now, like there's already imbalance in power. They could essentially, if you're a multi-billionaire, you can write your own legislation. Like, how do we ever get that power back?
You
Well, I
don't.
think it's inevitable. Like I think it all collapses.
So that's not a good argument for capitalism, then, is it? Like inevitably, all the wealth goes right to the top and it stays there. That's
We'll
like,
eat
that's
the rich.
No, that's
in
not
the
what I was
pudding.
saying was inevitable.
Like
What I was
that's not
saying
a
was
good
inevitable. Well, what I was saying, I think that the Reformation is inevitable. I think it's just pragmatic, and I think people can't help but see it now. I think it's been shoved in everyone's face. I think people are getting sick and tired of, being sick and tired, for lack of a better term. I'm tired myself, so excuse my increativity. But I think that we're getting to the breaking point here, and changes are right around the corner. But you just need something to base those things on, which
The frustrating
do you
part is like
agree?
we've been past that point for like 30 years. We can't get conservatives to jump on board and recognize that like we're already past the point where there's a real problem that we don't know if we can fix. And like your conservatives are like, yeah, well, we may get to that point eventually, but like we're there. We're seeing it right now. The system doesn't work. It's completely broken.
I want to piggyback off of RTP. Ed, do you agree that capitalism, no matter what form it starts in, will always lead to corporatism or crony capitalism, quote unquote?
Well, no, because the only way to do that is to allow for these shitty laws that allow like this corporatism to run amok. Like it's very easy. Things like Citizens United, and to a lesser extent, stuff like NAFTA and things like that. If you just chop the balls off of stuff like that, you're already like halfway to freedom.
So how did the shitty laws get there?
Lobbyists. So that would be another thing that you need to get out, which would be
Ed, what is it that you want?
Where did the lobbyists get their money?
What is it that you want? If you want to get rid of capitalism, there is an end game for you. So what is it that you want? Let's just assume I'm a capitalist, okay?
Hey, but you're going at the wrong person. Ed doesn't want to end capitalism.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ed. I thought you wanted to end it. So,
No, I'm the socialist here.
So who, if you want to end it?
Hey, but hold on. You interrupted Super Solid. Super Solid was next. And then it was
Yeah, I just wanted to know how did the lobbyists get their money?
Well, I give them the money.
right. I mean, lobbyists get money lots of ways.
Give them the money. Because I need legislation in order to do certain things with my corporation, so I pay lobbyists to do it because I have to run a corporation and I don't have the time and the effort and the management expertise in order to do things at that particular level. So I have political lobbyists who actually do have those expertise. And I
Right.
pay
It's not
them
the
for it.
fact that the lobbyists have money that's the problem. It's that the lobbyists are allowed to exist in the first place. Right, Super?
It's just a job.
Yeah, a job that we don't need.
Well, there are many things, RTP, that we don't need. I mean, but if it's specifically bad and it specifically affects you, you know, I listen to you, and I'm not going to listen. I just want to, let me clear the air with you first.
Yeah,
of all.
I do.
For
Just
the
real
most
just
of part,
Tony,
I actually agree with like
quick time out. Quick
95%
Tony.
of everything that you say. Okay,
Tony,
Well,
Tony, quick time out. Super solid. You have
Tony
bars,
got his
bro.
bar.
Yeah, you got bars. So we catching, like, I think you got a lag and you got bars. That's why we not catching what you're saying.
All right, give me a hot second. I'm about to pull in the drive.
All right. I'm sorry, Tony. Go ahead. I just wanted to make sure because he was spotty. I didn't want him to feel like he was talked over and all that.
but what?
Okay, Tony.
So RTP, what is it that you actually want to achieve by, let's just say, one of the comments that you keep on making is that I collect all the money. The money comes to me. Okay. The reality is the money doesn't all come from you to me because it actually gets recirculated back. I actually get to keep, well, it is true, I get to keep my profits. So if you took, for example, my corporation, I will earn approximately anywhere between a 3 to 5% gross profit on my product. If you personally wanted to sell an item that you made with what you do, and what I'm not going to say anything bad about what you do. So if you wanted to monetize what you did with the effort that you put into it, what do you think your level of profit should be considering the work that you do? Now, don't forget you're limited in your supply and your market. So obviously I make up with economies of scale. But do you think you should be making a 50% markup profit?
Bro, trying to
What are
teach
you?
macro.
Are you talking about like
over here.
Are you talking about with what I do, Tony?
With
Like,
whatever. Let's just
yeah,
say
I
you
mean,
sold a piece of merchandise and you sold it for $20. You're obviously going to want to make as much as you can because that's what you need to do in order to survive.
yeah,
So what you
I think it's the wrong question, Tony. I think the right question is like, what would I rather? Because this is what I'm doing for a living. So what would I rather? I would rather that a corporation that makes all of their money off of using the voices of their creators not get to keep 66% of it. It's my production. I'm the one that made that output. And I don't think capitalists deserve to take the lion's share of the profits. Specifically, like, Tony, with all due respect, brother, like, you can talk about what you do, you can talk about what you've earned, how hard you worked. I don't doubt it for a second, but you were also born with a silver spoon in your mouth, and you had a massive head start on the rest of us. And now you're up here defending the fact that you have so much money that you can pay other people to go talk to senators and congresspeople for you. That's a dog shit system. You shouldn't ever have enough money
but
to
that's
be
what
able to do that when the rest of
why?
us
But
who
why
should have,
okay, RTP,
because
why?
it only benefits a small percentage of the people, and that's not how I would design a society. I wouldn't want to design a society that is set up the way it is now, where the more money you get, Tony, the more influence you have. That leads to corruption. No, you don't have any billionaires out there who haven't just looked the other way in making some of their money.
I'm gonna.
Unless you want to give me a spot on the
I,
board, then I'll.
I want to take it a step further than RTP. I don't think companies should exist at all. Period. There should be no conglomerates. There should be no mega corporations. There probably shouldn't even be smaller mom and pop shops if we get down to the nitty gritty. Companies should not
That's where
exist.
I draw the line. I'm with you on mega corporations.
Let me just put some reality
Tony,
behind
did anyone
that.
ever tell you you sound like Alan Ford before?
Tony, you're a nepo baby. Stop telling other people about reality.
No,
Your
let me tell
reality
you,
is
I
the
will tell
reality
you.
of almost nobody.
Honestly,
Hey, one
You're the
second,
only
y'all.
one with
Hey,
that
hey,
reality.
You
one second.
We all live in a
politely
different one.
asked me to
Tony,
be quiet.
and
I
RTP,
did.
give me 1 second, y'all. Give me 1 second. Hey, Baby Jones. Baby Jones, was you about to say
Yeah.
something? I seen Baby Yoda come out. I was about to ask you to hop down, but I see Baby Yoda come out because we got Buzzy in the request.
Now it's cool. You can give it to Buzzy. I'll join
Okay.
back.
All right, bet.
Do you recognize what that sounds like, Tony, when you, who was born with all this money and a huge advantage, tells us, like all of us regular people, what reality
You're
is?
not a regular person, RTP. Let me tell you something.
I certainly didn't get what you
Please
got.
let me, please. You want to provide for your family and your children. I'm not sure how many you have, but let me tell you, you would do exactly the same for your children if you had the same wealth that my parents had. Do you want to just hand it back at the end of your expiry of your life? You just turn around to society and say, I'm giving it all back. I've lived my life. I was a success. My children are not going to get anything. Because if you are saying that, you're doing it for an audience right now, and you know you do not mean that because you
What is
are a
homie yapping
father
about right
of
now?
children and you want
TBH.
to provide for your family and your
What
children
is
as best as
what
you
are
can.
hold on. I'm sorry. This is a nonsensical idea. The whole reason why you have to provide for your family is because you are not being provided for communally, which is what
Well,
at least what I am
that
advocating for.
is,
You won't have
well,
to
but that's
provide
fine. But
for
you
your
know,
family.
so are you so you are asking therefore that our entire system of manufacturing, our entire system of production is equally controlled by everybody in the United States.
So
That's
Yes,
people.
Okay,
I'm arguing for
so
community. Yeah.
why
That's
then? So
preferable to
why
me
should I
than
go to
just like a
college?
handful of people.
Okay,
Wouldn't you
but why
prefer?
should
I
I?
know you wouldn't prefer that, but for the rest of us, we'd probably prefer that not a handful of people have
So
all the power and all the
so
capital.
RTP, you want to get
Yeah.
paid the same amount as if you were a brain surgeon and you
That's
studied
not
for
how communism
15
works.
years.
It's
So
Communism,
not
you
you
even
wouldn't
what.
be
want
paid.
so you want to get paid the same
That's not.
as a nurse or as
No,
less
hold on,
qualified than
hold
you
No,
on.
are.
wait.
A few
The
things need to be corrected here. Communism isn't everyone gets the same thing. That's just
and
not
I'm
what it
not.
is. It's not what it has ever been. Socialism isn't even everybody gets the same thing. So it's just a nonsensical point.
We were talking about the provision of wealth to ongoing members of a family.
Yeah,
Wealth
Tony.
shouldn't
Right.
exist, period.
So that's what we
Tony.
say. So that shouldn't exist. So if I become an entrepreneur, even under a socialist country, like say France,
France
like
isn't
say
socialist.
Italy or Great
Italy
Britain,
isn't socialist. Great Britain isn't
well,
socialist.
they are more
No, they are
socialistic.
not. They have social
Well,
policies, but that is not
okay,
socialism.
okay. We are not talking about the equal factors of production run by a state. We are still talking about a capitalist
Run by a
society
state wouldn't be.
that provides the ability for production factors to be controlled by
Okay,
the
Tony, to let
entrepreneur.
you understand what the conversation was before you joined the conversation, it was us talking about socialism x capitalism, right? So, this idea that things have to operate under a capitalist model is nonsensical, and it's not how any of the world existed prior to colonialization. Right, the capitalist model is a relatively newer model when we look at like the way that the world and community existed prior to this. Now, communism, socialism, the things that I advocate for, I don't necessarily know that RTP advocates for them, but at least the thing that I advocate for is saying that these capitalist structures, which have allowed you to amass a bunch of wealth while people quite literally starve to death, is bad.
Okay, so I ask you the very first question, which I'll ask you again. What is it that you want?
Overall communism. I'll settle for socialism right now.
Okay, so explain to me then what it is that you will achieve under a communistic society.
everyone's basic needs being met, nobody starving to death, people having the freedom to do the things that they want to do in life without having to work 40 plus hours a
So
week,
basically,
slaving for
you want.
minimum
I mean,
wage.
and please don't take this. I mean, it's a little bit comical, but so you want the Star Trek utopia of the
Not
Federation.
utopia.
That's what you want. You just
Not
want
utopia.
yeah. Well, what it is a utopia.
It's not actually.
So what? Everybody gets free education. Everybody gets
Well, everything would be free because
basic,
money doesn't
basic
exist under a
minimum
communist
wage,
system.
or do
Money
we
does
want?
not exist under a
Okay,
communist
so
system. So this idea that
we're
stuff
talking
is
about
free is
we're talking
nonsensical.
Gene Roddenberry Star Trek.
No, actually, we're not.
Why
We're
am
talking
I
about
gonna?
communal
Why?
structures.
So how do you convince me to make my products in order to sell you? So I should be doing it free of charge.
Oh, this is the difference here. There would be no selling. We don't need your product. Your product is a useless thing that is actually not needed in society. Nobody needs Chef Boyardee. Communities would feed each other. That's how we would do that, right?
Wait,
we don't
is your dad actually Chef Boyardee?
Yes,
the claim.
yes.
What? That's
Right.
crazy.
Yes, not my dad.
That's
My
the, I don't necessarily believe that, but that's the claim, right?
Okay, I tell you what. If you can prove otherwise, I'll publicly give you $1 million.
Why would I prove?
You
Why
can
would I
if
prove
you
the
can
negative?
publicly prove you can publicly prove
Why would I
otherwise.
prove the
Yeah.
negative?
Right?
Hector
No.
Boyardee is his
Hey, for $1 million, I'll prove I'm Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
For real.
I kind of believe I'm kind of with RTP on the rich people not having the influence, though. I'll say that.
Well, the influence comes because I need things to be done.
I heard
Yeah,
$1 million.
Right.
Yeah,
So I'm fine with people being able to become independently wealthy. I just don't want them to have their hands in the government. Like that's essentially my stance on capitalism.
But that is
What's your actual name, Tony?
My
first name?
My name is Anthony Boyardee.
Okay, well, the original Chef Boyardee had one son, Mario Boyardee, who
Yes,
then
that
had
was my
one son,
dad.
Joseph Boyardee.
That was my dad.
Mario Boyardee had
Mario
one child
Boyardee-
named Joseph Boyardee.
No.
That's what I just looked up.
Well, you're looking up fucking wrong bullshit.
The chef was a company and song.
Okay, my dad
Boyardees
was
had
Mario.
one son,
He
Mario.
had two sons, Mario and Tony. He had two daughters, Chantal and Helen, and my younger brother Richard.
Hector Boyardee had one
Hector
son,
Boyardee
Mario
had one
Boyardee.
Mario, that's right. Absolutely.
Mario had one
and he
son.
lived at 300 Boyardee Lane, Cheston-on-Wye, Penderyn, Maryland. Okay.
Okay, so where's my $1 million?
What are you talking about?
Mario
Boyardee
Boyardee
died
had
in
one son,
Cleveland, right?
Joseph Boyardee.
Oh my God. My dad's middle name was Joseph.
Yes.
No.
Mario J. Boyardee. Yeah, I found the obituary. Yeah, he's
That's
a father
right.
of 5.
That's
Father of
right. My brother, Mario, Tony, Chantal, Helen, Richard.
Maybe. I believe you. I want this to be real.
We've gone through this, guys.
What are we talking about?
I've gone through this a million times.
What we talking about?
This is
I still don't
this
believe
is
it.
Chef Boyardee the third.
Chef Boyardee the third is crazy, though.
It is.
I saw you
It
definitely.
is.
So I saw
It
you. I
is.
just did some
And I
research
don't
and
need
some
to.
pictures online.
Yeah, hold on. I don't need to disrespect him though because he's an art patron of mine.
Yeah.
So
End of the day, nobody needs your terrible tasting ravioli. We don't need it anywhere in society.
Could I just respond to what
I
Tony
mean,
said?
apart from the fact that I sell 30 million cans a day, there's an awful lot of people that eat my products.
He fed the
Can I
soldiers.
just point this out real quick? Can I just point this out real quick? This is not even for nobody on the panel. I just want to do this for the people real quick. I want to do this for the people. This is what for the people. Okay. Hold on. Give me 1 second, y'all. Give me 1 second.
Oh, fuck you.
Why is he in 2 boxes?
I think that's
I
racist.
had to do this. I had to do this for the people. I had to do it for Bunty real quick. Listen. This is actually Gorilla
Why'd you have
Radio.
to put it off while he was in the middle of scratching his beard, too?
Yeah, this is Gorilla Radio 2 years ago.
Unfair timing.
It's just I just wanted to point this out for y'all. Now listen, Tony, Crow, Ed, Buzzy, all those on all sides of the house. Can we all at least agree that this absolutely is Gorilla? Can we all agree? See the MAGA hat? Y'all see that?
That's disrespectful to that monkey.
No, come on, guys. Come on,
I
guys.
mean, his nose, it doesn't look like that.
Oh my God! Now you're just trying to save him. Now you just.
If I put up a gorilla, will I get reported and say it's you?
Yes, you would.
Let's not do that.
Yeah, let's not do that. Yeah, how about we don't do that? But no, I just wanted to lighten the mood a little bit, y'all. Can I get everybody to tap the screen? Everybody tap the screen. Make sure, listen, as a matter of fact, y'all, it's 351 people in here. We need to protect the live. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go 60 seconds. For the person that gets the least amount of gifts, that person has to stay on mute for 3 minutes. For 3 minutes, y'all have 60 seconds to gift the entire panel. 60 seconds, run those flowers, the coins, run it. And the person, and if it's a tie, they stay muted. So if it's like 0-0, they stay muted. That's what it is. If you want Javon muted, then you just don't gift them. If you want Tony Ravioli muted, you don't gift them. Like, listen, the person with the least amount of gifts has to get muted for 3 minutes. Let's run those gifts up, people. Also, let's tap that screen. Tap that screen. Protect the live. Let's protect the live. Listen, this is edutainment. We're having these dialogues because these are conversations that must be had. Amen. These are conversations that have to be had. But at the end of the day, these are not conversations that we're going to have for free. All right?
Hey,
go ahead, Dantro.
Hey, I will reveal today. I finished that painting today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Well,
I'll let everybody see it.
Absolutely.
I'll let y'all see it. Hold on.
All right. That's that minute up. Let's get back to the conversation, y'all. Hold on. Let me end this real quick. All right. There we go. All right, who got the least amount? Who got?
That would be actual ED.
Actual Edge, you got 3 minutes, bro. You timed out till 10:29 my time, bro. You gotta stay on mute. You got to stay on mute. Hey, I feel some type of way, actual Ed, because Gorilla got more coins than you, bro. Like Gorilla, that is crazy. That is fucking crazy.
I just want to point out that in the free market, I'm worth so much more than Tony. This is a free market, and I just want to point that out, Tony. We all started at the same place, and we played by the same rules, and I just did better.
I could only give him roses.
Can I just say that Buzzy and I are significantly more valuable in the free market, and we didn't even say anything.
Hey, I did this before I forget though.
Yeah, I feel some type of way about that, but I guess I'll keep my mouth shut.
No, I discourage anybody from giving me any gifts. I mean, I've heard it many times in many lives, and they say, why are you giving a rich person gifts? I get it. I truly do. But, I've said this many times to many people as well. I said, if you're thinking about what I've taken from everybody, RTP, how much do I owe you?
Well, that's not what it's about, Tony. Like, that's the thing. If you want to hold on, let me answer. If you want to talk about like this Star Trek utopia, dude, you're king, like you're Prince Joffrey in your fantasy, like where you're just like everybody is getting fucked except for a handful of people, and you're one of those people that didn't. Like you're one of those people that got that silver spoon. So I'm sorry, like for you to say like how much of my money do you need? I don't know. I don't know the answer. The answer is I want a more equitable system, and I don't think the fact that you were. I don't think the fact. I didn't say. I've never claimed you took money, and this is you obfuscate. No, nobody's even claiming that.
Wouldn't you rather me show you a system that allows you to be able to earn profits? Isn't that what you would want?
Yeah, how are you going to teach me how to be born with rich parents?
Can I jump in here?
Well, what does rich parents have to do with anything?
You inherited your wealth.
I didn't inherit my wealth. I inherited access to capital. My wealth has been made by me independently.
Yeah, it was inherited.
So
We
I
didn't
just
inherit that.
I just
So-
want to make sure we don't get. Oh, sorry, Liv, go ahead. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
so I think that this is a piece for me, right? Like, even when it comes to rich people, they're born into capitalism. They uphold capitalism just like white people uphold white supremacy and racism. I can't expect an individual person, regardless of the vast amount of wealth or power they have, to be able to dismantle that entire system, right? But I think that the issue here is the lack of understanding of what socialism actually means for the people, right? Because understand that creating a system where you say, Tony, that an individual can create and earn capital, which means that there's a caste system, right? That means that there are rich people and that there are poor people. And within this society, there are rich people that come with privileges and there are poor people that come with disenfranchisements. And what Jovan and what RTP are arguing is that we should not operate within a system that creates poverty. And what you're saying is that this system that creates poverty can also lift you out of poverty. And I'll show you how it can lift you out of poverty while this system that you're operating in is creating the poverty that you live in. I don't think that people should be living in poverty. So when you advocate for these things, and I'm not going to deny, like we've had conversations with Nemo going back, and I get it. You advocate and you take care of your employees. But we're not just talking about your employees. Again, that's just a simple way of looking at things.
But
We're
Liv,
talking about the population.
if I accept your premise,
Yeah.
if you took the 700 billionaires in this country, if you took the 700 of us and you evenly distributed all the money, and don't forget, it couldn't all be in cash because 90% of all our assets are in illiquid issuances, which I would use as credit and debt. So if I relinquish that, I am having to cut back a huge percentage of it. But even if I turned all of the assets that the wealthy 700 have into cash and distributed it amongst all of America, you'd each only end up with $10,000.
I don't know why we're back to this when we've already addressed this.
But the
It's not
point
about
is,
distributing the cash. There can be no equity.
right?
There can
Okay,
be no
okay,
equality
That's
under a
not
capitalist structure.
that's not my point. The point is,
Then why would you
you
say
are
that?
now getting rid of the entire system of production of all
But nobody's
items.
advocating for that, Tony. Nobody's advocating that we
Yeah, I don't think-
redistribute the wealth. Like nobody's even saying that.
Well,
You
of
said
course
that-
you are, because
Okay,
you
wait.
have
Not in the way you're saying it, Tony.
So wait,
because
No.
you have to
And I'll take the
redistribute it
10,000
in
you said
order.
a system. You said a system of production, right, Tony?
Yes.
Where did that system of production start? Of like mass producing things. I'll tell you, it started in Africa. It started in Africa and it started in the Middle East, right? It would be people sitting around the table and everybody would have a part of a thing and they would do the thing to whatever product that they were producing, right? And then when European, and everybody says it started with Europeans.
Yeah, whatever.
But like
My
when
grandfather
we're talking about,
started a factory in the kitchen, okay, with
wait,
3
hold on,
employees.
but hear me out, Tony. But hear me out, Tony. Hear me out. What we're talking about is like when it started, the way the production worked, and we're talking about the means of production, right? When it initially started and we were producing items, people would be able to sit at a table and they would be able to work at their own pace to go do the thing that they needed to do, right? And they would do that thing.
Right.
Then, right, Europeans got a hold of that system and then they added the conveyor belt. Now, that means of production that where people would sit at the table and they would just work at their own pace was taken from them. Now it's generated by the person that owns the company. What we're advocating for is that we should go back to people sitting around the table. Because again, I don't think that means of production should go to.
But you can't do it because in order for you to create a manufacturing base that creates the product ultimately as less expensive as I can produce a product, you have to have the mass production. You have to be able to collate all the employees. You have to be able to buy your equipment en masse cheaper. You have to be able to amortize it in a way
We don't
that
need
makes
to
sense.
mass produce products. I don't know
Give
why
me the
you keep
risk.
going
I will
there.
give you a classic
Give me
example.
the risk.
Please just wait. Just because it's my product, I will tell you. If I am going to create a can of overstuffed ravioli, I will produce that can for approximately 45 cents a can, and I will have it in a wholesale distributorship.
But we don't need the can.
You can't mass produce food unless
We don't need
Tony,
to
we don't
mass
need to.
produce things.
The idea of capitalism is the idea of capitalism only stands on the idea of rampant market consumerism. That's it. The idea that you need these things, the idea that you need more and continue to need more, and you need to consume this and you need to consume this. That's the only way that capitalism has continued to prop itself up, is by just the absolute pulling of the wool over. No, it's pulled the wool over. It's pulled the wool over. Hey, hold on. It's pulled the wool over everyone's eyes that we need these things. When in reality, what Jovan is talking about, what RTP is talking about, and what Liv is talking about, and what I'm talking about, is the idea that we don't actually need that. We don't actually need the money. The money doesn't have to exist. It doesn't have to. The idea that capitalism is the only system that could properly work, in which we would have a society in which we would have the things that we need, that we would innovate medicines, and that we would innovate the idea that people are more valuable than the products that we consume, that's not that hard of a concept to come to. The only reason that it's difficult for you is because you've only existed within a capitalistic system, and you've only benefited from a capitalistic system. You've never benefited from any other system. And so for you, you're at the top. You don't experience what the people at the bottom have experienced. And so there's no way for you to have a correlation. But we don't need it. We don't need the ravioli. We don't need the can. We don't need the money. We could exist and socially support a society without any of that.
Literally, you call yourself a communist in your very live like an hour and a half ago, Crow? I mean, a capitalist.
What did I say? Hold on, what?
Did you call yourself definitely a communist in your very own live like an hour and a half ago?
A communist? No, I said. So what I said is I absolutely 100% support the pillars of communism. Hold on. I exist and I currently operate within a capitalist system that I do benefit from, and I do see that the means to get to the communist system that I would love for us to all be in is through socialism. That's what I said.
No,
I don't see that.
You said that you were a capitalist.
I exist in a capitalist system. I exist in a capitalist system, and I benefit from it. Yes.
I want to move past that point. I don't want to bring up another live here, and like at this point, Crow, even if it was a misunderstanding, Crow clarified his point that he made, right? So I think we can move past this. We also have Buzzy and Sean. Buzzy, I don't even think Buzzy has said anything. So I don't want to go Buzzy.
I was trying to, and then Ed decided that he wanted to jump on Crow. And I was like, well, there goes Crow being a trampoline again.
Yeah, Crow has beef out here in these TikTok streets. I get it.
He won't call me by my real name. He's the one who's starting it. It's not.
Listen, actual ED. It's not that big.
No, it's fundamentally disrespectful.
There I was.
Go ahead. Let's let Buzzy talk, and then we're gonna go to
There
Sean.
I was, merely a bumblebee, having a thought, thinking, it would be so nice if I let the words out. And then a white man started speaking. Who would have guessed? Okay. The thing is about community, really. What is being talked about, and I think what Ravioli keeps kind of missing the point of, is that issue of community. And I think that's largely rooted in something that Crow just said, right? Objectively, because of the level of capitalism that Tony's family has been able to achieve, they don't necessarily need community. There is no need to engage with community. If Tony wanted to, he could live his entire life in isolation, away from the people that he's serving his food to, away from the people that pull his food off the shelves or eat it in times of emergencies, that kind of thing. He could objectively live a life in isolation, away from those people that are buying the food that his family sells. He does not have to engage with society because his level of capitalism allows him that privilege. What is being talked about amongst at least RTP, Javon, and Crow is community. The fact that if you have community... What?
I was in there.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. Liv2. Okay, Liv, Javon, RTP, and Crow are talking about community.
Thank you.
And the fact that in this society, the way society operates now, There is a huge thing of individualism in the United States of America. And we saw that individuality damn near ruined this country when COVID happened, specifically with people that didn't want to take the bare minimum of precautions to protect other people. Why? Get out of my lawn is basically why. Don't tell me what to do. I'm not protecting those people. I don't know them. But on the other hand of that, you had people walking around grocery stores in scuba outfits trying to make this fun and enjoyable while protecting people because they felt it was the right thing to do. But they also felt like they could bring a smile to someone's face because what everybody was just trying to survive. But largely, America runs on individualism. That individuality is the reason why a lot of people in other countries outside of the United States of America can't stand us, because that individualism makes us as Americans seem very selfish because we care about ourselves and nobody else. And lets us tax season and the tax office close in Texas and everybody bands together to want to fuck everybody up. That's a whole different conversation. But that's the reality of the situation, right? If there's community, if you have community gardens, if you have
You're right.
community
But
kitchens,
your approach to me was based on what I could do if I so wanted to. The fact is
right?
that
But what I'm saying is we don't get
I live
that.
in a community. I have surrounded myself with a community. I
But
have
what I'm
many
saying
people
is
within a community.
we don't get that privilege to choose this.
Okay,
We don't
it's a
have,
privilege.
you have the
I have
so, well,
always
listen to what
said
I'm
I have
saying.
never
I'm not
denied the
attacking
fact
you. I want you to
no,
listen to what I'm
I'm
saying in its
understanding that you're not
completion.
attacking me. I understand you're not
I'm not,
attacking me.
so then can you listen to what I'm saying in its completion?
I thought I did. I thought you stopped, and I was making a rebuttal to
I
it.
was mid sentence when you started talking.
Actually, I was making a rebuttal, and you cut me off.
I was mid
All right,
sentence
so
when you started
let's do this. How about this? Because Tony, I know you're a gentleman, so let's let Buzzy finish with that thought, and then Tony, you absolutely can respond, and then after that, we'll go to Sean. Or with Sean's back, I think Sean has the teacup. So go ahead, Buzzy.
So we don't get that choice, right? People that did not reach the level of capitalism that your family has been able to reach, Tony, we don't get that choice. We don't get to choose community. Community is necessary. Whether you're in a single parent home or a two parent home, community is necessary. You need the people around you to aid you in life, whether it be helping, whether it be someone keeping an eye on the kids for a second, or whether it be somebody bringing you something. Like, community is necessary. The reason why a lot of people find themselves in church is because of community. There are other people to lean on when they are struggling. We don't have that option to be without community, because when you have not reached that level of capitalism, the lack of community turns into isolation. With that, isolation turns into a lot of mental health issues, all kinds of things. It is not a choice for people in this level to be without community. There's nothing good that comes from that. But if you have community gardens, if you have community kitchens, if you have mutual aid happening, then people do not have to struggle. Why? Because you are symbiotically living, and everybody gets the opportunity at not just equality, but at equity. What's being talked about is communal equity.
All right, Tony,
I'm
the
done.
floor is yours.
Okay, well, there's a couple of things in there. One, you contradicted yourself with your eloquence about isolationism. So, first of all, you said that we need community. And then, second of all, you said we don't have community as a society. That's why people from overseas look at us differently, because we're kind of like, shut up and be by yourself. Now, that community that you're talking about is an option, as you said, but it's an option not for just for me. It's an option for you, because there are many people who can go to church. There are many people who can go to communal gardens. There are many people who could go to public places, because we do have those already. So we're not living in a society that doesn't provide for that community. But most people, as you also stated, don't want to be part of that community, and it causes a lot of other health issues. Now, that being said, the privilege that I have still doesn't mean I don't provide community for other people, because I value that aspect of community. So I will provide communal centers for people. I will provide communal health facilities for people. I will provide all kinds of different benefits for my employees and for people who live in my society or people who live in my community. So I provide those because I have the ability, because I don't ignore that people need more than what they actually have. But I also have to be very sympathetic to the fact that I do have a corporation to run. I do have people to employ. I do have the fiscal responsibility of many other people around me. And I do have to provide for everybody. And I still work within that capital society, and I don't do it for free. Because we don't live in a, whether it's a communist or socialist, or whether it's a pseudo-communist or a utopian society. That is not what I do. I have to literally borrow money, pay debt, service debt, have shareholders, have people, create a product, compete with others to put product on the shelf in order to employ people. Those were lessons that my family learned from Hector himself. The only reason why he ended up selling his company many years ago was to make sure the 5,000 employees that he had kept their jobs, because it would have been so easy for him just to have sold the brand name, taken the money, got rid of the jobs, and just be done with it. But it was a lesson that we learned from one generation to the other, that we had a responsibility to those people that weren't as lucky as what we were being part of this family. So I create my own community behind me because I have, one, the ability to, and two, the responsibility to as well. Now, if I had the asset...
Tony, you're creating infrastructure, not community. Do you understand the tone deafness of saying, like, I build a community, I have so much money that I give it back to the... Hold on, Tony, you just had like 5 minutes to ramble, so
come
pipe
on
down for a second.
You
just went off for a long time, Tony.
So rude.
It's not your turn anymore. Don't. Oh, I don't.
Well, hang
don't
on. Really?
So I'm gonna finish, Tony.
Just told me to basically politely be quiet and
So,
let her
so
finish.
here, let's be fair.
You butt in and you get to take the floor because you think
Tony,
you
1
want
second.
to,
It's
right?
the host talking. It's the host talking. Tony, how about this? Let's be fair, because Sean hasn't said anything. And so let's do this. Let's go, Tony. I'm going to give you, I don't know, 45, 60 seconds, land the plane. And then we'll go to Sean. And then we'll go to Jovan. And then we'll go to RTP. And then right after RTP goes, Tony, you can respond. And if y'all want to have a back and forth, y'all can have that back and forth. I just want to be fair to the rest of the panelists to be able to get everybody in to have an opportunity to speak. Is that cool?
Okay, the reality is, if you put your system into effect tomorrow and asked for the community that you wanted, people wouldn't pay for it. It takes people like me to actually put the money into charities to be able to fund some of these centers that people wouldn't pay for normally. Public centers, public parks, public health centers, public health crisis facilities. These are all funded by people, and it's not mostly people who don't have money funding them. And the government is sadly lacking, whether it's a liberal, Democrat, or conservative or Republican government. They leave this funding to charities.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Tony. Let's go, Sean. And then we're going to go to Jovan, RTP, and back to Tony. Go ahead, Sean.
There's a couple things.
First of all, how you doing, sis? How you doing? Welcome to the panel.
What's up? Hi. Was that okay? There's a couple things when it comes to the capitalist. The capitalist doesn't really have an equation for how they deal with community, but they do have an equation for how they deal with products and how they deal with capital, and so do the workers and the employees. Within capitalism, I actually hate the community argument, but like within this argument, it still falls flat with the capitalist standpoint because capitalists do not provide community. Capitalists simply like add capital and own the means of production in which workers have their surplus, and they steal surplus value from workers in order for workers to be wage slaves for them. Your job is not a communal event. Like, you don't go to your job and think, God damn, I can't wait to go to my job today and work for my boss with these motherfuckers I can't stand every day. Like, no one fucking says that. Everyone hates their job. No one wakes up in the morning and wants to go work at McDonald's. No one wakes up in the morning and wants to put ravioli in a can. That's not a fucking community. That's a fucking job, and they're forced to have it, and you steal their surplus value. You don't build community. And the reason as to why you have to give to charities is because we live in a capitalist system. It is not profitable to give clothes to unhoused people. It is not profitable to give food to unhoused children. It is not profitable to help people who don't have money give to you. Like, that's the whole point. The entire point of you that you said about the government, whether it be liberal or whatever, literally neoliberalism advocates for capitalism. So these are critiques that you are making yourself within capitalism, whilst not addressing any of like the Marxist critiques, which I think you should, because I find that you will have a hard time doing it. The Marxist critiques of capitalism is that it doesn't even work on paper. Supply and demand is ass. It's not a good way to distribute products. And we see that with things like when somebody brought up the pandemic, you couldn't even provide toilet paper. Your entire point is to have the supply for the demand of people. There was a pandemic, and the number one thing that people need when they are staying in the house is milk, bread, and toilet paper, and you could not keep up. Supply and demand is ass. You cannot keep up. This is what Marx talked about. You don't build community. You steal surplus value. You give people a place to work for 8 hours so you can steal their surplus value, alienate them, and make them feel like they cannot be a part of their community because most people are too busy working 2 jobs at this point because you've stolen so much surplus value, raised the prices of goods enough that people cannot afford them, that they need more jobs. And for in your idea, that would be more community. They need more jobs in order to be able to afford to eat and live in a place that is not going to unalive them due to things like roach infestations, bed bugs, mold infestations, or whatever the cost that is. Like, but you can't even provide housing for the people that are unhoused. Like, you don't even have a metric to see how many unhoused people we have. And those are just like a few basic fundamental problems with capitalism. This idea of you building a community falls so flat. It's a bad argument to begin with. And on top of that, it does not address the economic needs that capitalism cannot provide for. And on top of that, socialism can mass produce. It has mass produced. We don't want to get into the successes of socialism, especially of mass production, because they fucking lap capitalism. So let's not.
Awesome. Hey, real quick, I do gotta be fair. Tony, I'm gonna give you 60 seconds to respond, and then we're gonna go right to Jovan. I keep saying Javon because y'all know Javon on this app. Shout out to the homie Javon. It's different. But go ahead, Tony. Just do quick 60 seconds to respond real quick, and then we're
Well,
gonna go right to
a lot of
Javon.
people will tell you that they'll say, like, most of my employees, I'm reading one right now, most of my employees can't afford lights and food at the same time. I am one of the only companies that pushed unions onto my workforce. I make sure my employees earn approximately 30% above the national average for the similar products. They get full pensions, they get matching 401ks. They are some of the best paid employees in the industry. Our corporation lost $600 million several years ago, followed by another $300 million loss. But people don't mind when we lose money. But what we didn't do was fire our workers and reduce their salaries. We took it on the chin, and our shareholders did not get paid their dividends. We took it out of retained earnings to match the dividends in order to keep the shareholders happy. We do things in order to manufacture products, keep our employees working, but to keep them happy with full benefits. So we don't take advantage of them. As for the extra labor that they have, of course they work for us, and of course they still want to work for us. I could put you on 50 websites right now where people will complain about our company and about how hard they work. But the one thing that they will always say, we sure get paid really well there.
I got you.
Because I understand people need money.
Yeah. Hey, and so we're gonna go right to Jovan. Also, Tony, you got muted for 10 minutes. If you want to unmute, it's just double. Otherwise, you can just wait 10 minutes. But by the time RTP and Jovan finish, and Sean, the 10 minutes will be up. Go ahead, Jovan.
Yeah, I want to address quite a few things. First being, Tony specifically said, if you want to do all of these things, you're going to need us to pay for it. We have all the money needed to pay for quite literally everything. We have enough money from just standard taxes. We have enough money to pay for everyone to have a free education. We have enough money and homes for every person to be housed. We have enough money to end hunger tomorrow if we felt like it. We don't do these things because, like Sean said, it is all commodified. Education is commodified. Food and water is commodified. Shelter is commodified. Childcare is commodified. It is all a commodity, and that is all capitalism is. It's finding every way to commodify every aspect of our lives so that it can milk profit from us. There is no need for a capitalist system as we know it, right? We don't need Burger King and McDonald's. We don't need Starbucks. We don't need these things. We have these things. They are not a need. So when we talk about the change of the system, when we talk about moving from which also Tony got completely wrong by saying, well, we'll just shift to this system and everything will fall apart. The whole point of transitional socialism is so that nothing falls apart. That's the whole point of socialism being a transitional period to communism, right? That would be the entire aspect of it. We don't need companies like yours. We don't need Chef Boyardee. If you gave everybody access to fresh, healthy foods, no one would ever buy your product, period. They wouldn't. Not a single person on this God's given earth would choose to eat Chef Boyardee if we give them ravioli. We give them pasta, right? We give them free pasta. We give them free sauce. Nobody would choose it, right? The reason your ravioli sells so much is it's a cheap commodity. It is cheap, so the people who are poor and can't afford the fresh food have to choose your lower quality product in order to survive. This is one of the essential issues with capitalism. This is one of the essential issues that we keep talking about, why this system needs to change. And it can't just change to capitalism with some policy restrictions. It's not going to do anything. What it needs to change to is a system where the people who are actually producing the labor have say over what the products of that labor is in control, or what the products of that labor go to, what the products of that labor pay for, all of the above. I yield my time.
Thank you. Hey, real quick. Hey, shout out to Jay, man. Hey, I appreciate all of the galaxies, y'all. We almost had our goal. Sean, go. Sean, the floor is yours. And I believe it was Sean next. No, it was RTP. I'm sorry. RTP, then Sean. Go ahead, RTP.
Well, I don't want to say a lot other than because we'll let Jovan and Sean take care of this. But Tony, like I just hope you recognize that everything that you're talking about that you do so well, that you pay your employees more, that they work hard but they're fairly compensated, that you donate to the community so that people have resources, but then you advocate for the very system that makes those things, right? Like there's a huge wage disparagement between what you make and what your employees make. And like I know how much time you're on here too. Like I honestly don't think that your labor is worth more than theirs. You just have the capital, so it winds up being worth more because you just take your capital and you move it around. Like everything you're talking about is saying like, oh, there are holes in the system, but I'm such a good guy that I'm one of the few capitalists that actually gives a little bit back. Like I'll throw a little bit back. Not enough that I'm not a multi-millionaire, but like a little bit so that like when they go to the doctor, they have a $2,000 deductible instead of a $10,000 deductible. I mean, it just comes off as like you're the king and you're like, hey guys, be happy with that little crumbs that we're handing to you.
Since that was directed at you, Tony, I'm gonna give you 60 seconds, and then we're gonna go right. Just 60 seconds, quick 60 seconds. So we go right to Sean. Tony. If not, we can go right to Sean. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Give me like 1 second.
Okay, let's go down to actual ed. Let's go down to actual ed. Come back.
I mean, this seems to be, pretty hyper-focused on Tony and his situation, so I don't want to get in the middle of anything.
Well, yeah, I don't want to make it about like Tony and that. I think the conversation is using capitalism specifically.
We switched off. I thought me and Ed were having a great conversation before Tony showed up, and then we hyper focused.
So hey, Liv. While we got a break, we could do the reveal right quick.
We're not at 100K yet. We're not at 100K.
Okay.
We got to tap the screen and get to 100K.
I am back, by the way.
Okay, go ahead, Sean.
What I would like to... Oh, sorry.
So the big issue that I have, especially with capitalists and pro-capitalists, is that they don't address my argument. My argument is that like the communal building that you said that you do is non-existent. It wasn't about whether or not you think you pay your employees enough, because whether or not you think you pay your employees enough, you are still stealing their surplus value. There will still be a time within capitalism in which your employees aren't making enough to live, because the only thing that's going to keep happening for capitalists to keep making money is that they are going to keep raising prices, like regardless of if like the wages go up. So like there will be a point in which your workers will either make not enough to live or your business will go under. That's just within your own best interest. You can talk to me about how much money you lost all you want. Boo-hoo, I don't care. I want to line you up on a wall. Like, that's how much I want you to lose. But like, when you talk about the sympathetic things and like the appeals to emotion of my company lost this much money, excellent. I want it to lose all of its money. I want you to go out of business. I want you to have literally nothing over the people. I want you to be a regular person with the ability to like walk into a grocery store and walk out with everything that it is that you need. The idea of capitalism in itself is exploitative, and you have not addressed the stealing of your workers' surplus value. The only thing that you did was say, I steal less of my worker surplus value than that dude over there. And I don't care. You are still stealing the surplus value.
But don't those people consent to that, like, job?
Consent via coercion is not consent.
Well, I mean, but it's still consenting. Like, it's not coercion.
No, consent via coercion is not consent.
Wait, hold on. If I walk up to you, let's say me and Jovan walk up to you, you just walked away from an ATM machine. You have $200 in your hand.
Right.
And I walk up to you with a firearm and I say, give me your $200 or give him your $200. Would you have a choice?
No.
Are you sure? Because you can choose between me and Jovan that you give.
Well, yes. I mean, no, but yes, I would.
Right?
I understand what you mean. When I say no, I meant like there's no actual choice in like there's no positive choice. Like I'm out $200 either way.
Right, exactly this. So like, would that be consent?
No, but that's not what the workforce is. Like, you can
No,
opt out.
Wait, what happens when you opt out of the workforce?
You starve.
Not necessarily. Like, you can homestead. You can.
We have created a society in which people can't homestead because they don't have the knowledge to do so, because giving them that knowledge would mean that they would not have to work for the capitalist system.
Man, I just broke my man. That shit is crazy.
If homesteading was an easy thing, there would be no houseless population. Everyone would just homestead. We also make it illegal. Other than some campgrounds, it's mostly illegal to sleep outside, and the Supreme Court is on its way to make it even more illegal to do so if they pass this if this I'm tired.
Camping.
You know what I'm talking about. The
urban camping bill or whatever.
Yeah. In a lot of places, it's illegal to. I won't say illegal, but they make it very difficult to homestead. It's a very difficult thing to do if you don't own land.
So, do want to give a chance for
take that into consideration.
Crow and Buzzy. We haven't heard from them. So let's go Buzzy and then Crow. Buzzy, you there? Okay, we can go to Crow.
Again, I think I don't understand how we're continuing to lose, like Shauna said, like Giovanna's, so many times at this point. Capitalism does not need to exist. It doesn't need to. It does, and we're stuck in it, and you can't just get rid of it, but it doesn't need to exist. That's all I have on that. I'm going to be really quick on that side. Side note, Liv, I've been writing a new song.
I want to mention too that even people who work for themselves, capitalism still eats into it. Like, for example, I'm a full-time Twitch streamer. Twitch gets half of the profits that I make. Half of them. They get 50% of even if I'm given money as a donation, Twitch gets half of it. So like this idea that even like you are not safe. You're not safe from capitalism anywhere.
What? Yo, Jay, shout out WJ in the chat. WJ in the chat.
That's crazy amount of
Hey, hold on. I gotta do this for the panel. Hold on. Listen. I just got so much love, y'all. I just got so much love. We need to go ahead. We need to take a quick time out. And it's gonna tap the screen, y'all. Tap the screen. Make sure you share the live and make sure that y'all run those gifts up for the panelists. We're gonna take a quick 60 seconds. Dan Trail is gonna tell you all about this phenomenal art that he has. We're gonna take this quick 60 seconds.
Okay, y'all ready for the reveal? I painted this one in the
reveal. This ain't the reveal yet. Nah, they ain't.
What is this?
This just
what is this?
We just talking about your art. They ain't hit 100K yet.
Oh, you want to just talk about art in general?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So in 2021, Congress began to talk to one of my grandmother's close friends, considered the grandmother of Juneteenth holiday, Miss Opal Lee. And they went to the Juneteenth Foundation and said, we need to put together a muralist team of the best muralists they could find and do a Juneteenth National Monument in hopes that that would inspire Congress to go ahead and turn.
Oh. All right, so everybody got muted in because ain't nobody getting no gifts. I'm going to give y'all one more chance. So the way we do this, y'all, I'm going to give y'all one more chance, is that for this 60 seconds, y'all got to run those gifts up. And the person with the lowest gifts after these 60 seconds has to stay muted for 3 minutes. Okay? Y'all got to run those gifts up. I'm going to give y'all 60 seconds. We're going to hear Dan Trail. Y'all got 60 seconds, people. Run those gifts up. And if nobody get gifts, everybody stay muted. And y'all got to sit here and listen to me and Dan Trail. Y'all don't want that. So run those gifts up. I don't care if it's flowers. Amen.
Yes. And don't forget me. I'm over here. Anyway,
Throw in the big box.
yeah. So they assembled. Long story short, they assembled a team under Reginald Adams. It was at Reginald Adams and the creatives. I am one of the creators. We designed it first, then we went to a 5,000 square foot mural and did the National Monument. And we actually, as a kit for ourselves,
Gifts up, people.
put our faces on the mural under the Union soldiers. From that, it catapulted my art to the next level. And that's when things started going right for me.
Amen. There we go, people. I appreciate y'all. Shout out to WJ in the chat. WJ in the chat, people. Let's everybody tap the screen, share the live. Now, I do want to go open it back up. Amen. I want to open back up. Ed, it seems like you had the lowest amount of gifts, though. So let's go up to Jovan. Jovan, what you got to say to the people?
I just think it's become very clear that like between Crow, Sean, RTB, Buzzy, myself, that the core question of is capitalism necessary keeps being sort of avoided. Now, I won't say by Ed. Ed's actually addressed it pretty heavily. I think it's very clear that anytime a capitalist structure comes up, the things that we need to live become commodified, and this is one of the biggest issues that we have, especially in a structure like ours when we have all the money to pay for this stuff. So I am very much in favor of I don't say face the wall as much as Sean does, but like I think it. I fully believe that when it comes to our current system, there is no possible solution for reform because the mega corporations and conglomerates are too large. They're too powerful. That reform is not going to come. And even if that reform comes for us, that reform is not coming for the global south. That reform is not coming for countries that are being destroyed just so that we can have iPhone 16, right? So we can have the same product given. So we can have Ford v Honda, who are essentially making the exact same product, right? So we can have 16 burger chains that make burgers that all essentially taste the same, right? I want us to recognize that people lived pre-capitalism, they can live post-capitalism.
If nobody wanted to respond to that, I think that was a great point. We can open it up to a different topic.
Has it been 3 minutes yet? Or
I just wanted to say, Tony, I'm compared to Sean and Jovan, I'm less communist. And if you wanted to do something like fund a studio for me, like that would be fun. Like I would take your capitalist money for that if you want.
RTP is a dirty liberal.
Okay, but here's a serious question to the person who was just talking.
Because I really do have
and to everybody else.
Hold on, one second. I'll go to you right after Tony goes.
Why do you want to be the same as everybody else? So under your system, I'm assuming you'll all drive a Volkswagen, for better terms. It's a VW Beetle. You'll all live in a 500 square foot house. You will all eat the same. You will all drink the same. You'll all get up at the same time. And you'll do the things because we will work on the same system.
Who said any of that?
You all want, you know it. RTP2.
Tony, who said any of that? I hate to interrupt you, but you're misrepresenting our position to like the extreme of how capitalist propaganda misrepresents the position.
But it's not.
No, yes, it is. Why would we all drive Volkswagens when we already have hundreds of makes and models of cars? Why would we all live in the same house? If you want a bigger house, build a bigger house. What are you talking about?
You wouldn't have. You would not have hundreds of makes of cars, because society would choose to create the car that everybody would have, because
why do we
you
need
drive,
why do we
you won't
need
drive a
why do
Rolls
we need
Royce.
50
I
why
got
do
you,
we
son.
need
You
those
won't drive
models
a
of why do we
Jaguar.
need them?
You won't drive a
You
Bentley.
keep
You
ignoring
won't
that
drive a
question. You keep
Ferrari.
ignoring that question, Tony. What is the need to have Ford, Honda, Mitsubishi, Toyota? What is the need for this? There isn't any.
So you are agreeing with me without thinking about it, because without the need,
I asked you a
or the
question that you haven't
desire,
answered
all
for the
you're
last
saying is
hour.
we have a need for transport. So we always go to the lowest common denominator, because without that lowest common denominator, we're not going to get anything.
Are you wait? Hold on. Are you making the assumption and the assertion at this point? Are you making the assertion?
Hold on, Crow. Sean was.
Oh, sorry. I apologize.
I actually love when people make this argument, because I get to do the thing that I don't normally get to do, and I get to point out the issues of capitalism with this exact argument. By show of hands in the comments, let's do some crowd participation. By show of hands in the comments, how many of you?
Quick poll.
No, fuck the poll. Fuck the poll. I want to see a show of hands in the comments. No quick poll. I want to see a show of hands in the comments. How many of you have ever met in your life an aeronautical engineer?
I knew one of those words.
How many of you in your life have ever met an aeronautical engineer?
I know what air means.
I'm gonna give it like another few seconds.
One.
Okay, so we got like 5 people, right? How many of you have met a fucking store clerk? It's a new question. Show of hands. How many of you have met a store clerk? We got about 5 people who have met an aeronautical engineer. We've already superseded the amount of people who have met an aeronautical engineer. The issue is that within capitalism, you are the same. Like, you can be a store clerk at Target or Walmart, but you're doing the same thing. You wake up at the same time, you go to the same places, you stock the same shelves, you do the exact same thing. Like, when you do things like allow people access to the resources that they need, you get different jobs. There's a reason as to why, if you go to Cuba, the person selling you popcorn on the Havana Beach also has an engineering degree and can fly a plane. It's because schooling is free and the resources are free. You will meet people who do different things. Nobody is the same because nobody wants to do the same things.
Nonsense.
These ambitions. Hold on, I'm not done. I'm not done.
Wait,
I'm not
one
done.
second, Tony.
I'm not
wait
done.
1 second, Tony. And WJ,
Like I waited.
WJ in the chat.
Jay is going crazy.
Jay's
But
going
I'm not
crazy.
finished.
Go ahead, Sean.
I'm
Finish,
very
and Tony.
not finished, and it's
Yeah,
actually super
Sean, you
important.
finish, and then Tony, you can respond right after.
It's actually super important because the idea of someone doing the same thing and having the same job and being the same person and waking up at the same time, we literally have songs about the times that people are supposed to be at work and go home. We literally have sayings like the same old 9 to 5, like I'm doing the same old shit, different day. That is a capitalistic thought process. We are already doing that, and you are afraid of it. And you are saying that our system, which gives people the access to resources to be exactly who it is that they want to be. Like, if we asked on this panel, 2 people probably have the same job, because most people just work retail jobs and food service. When it comes to what people want to do, that's a completely different story. Jovan and I are 2 communists, have 2 completely different goals in life. Me and RTP apparently is a dirty liberal.
We're exactly the same. We're exactly the same in every way. I just want to be you. So if you say that we're the same, I'm going to be so happy right now.
So funny. but like but no, like, to be honest here, like when it comes to what the things that we want to do, our ambitions are completely different, and putting us in a society in which we have the resources to do the things that we want to do while saying that we are the same is absolutely insane. That is incredibly dishonest, because we are already doing the same thing. People are already riding around in the same model car because it's cheap. In the 90s, it was Honda. In the early 2000s, it was Toyota. Right now, the cheapest car that you can have is Chryslers. You see people riding around in Chryslers all day. We have the same car because it's cheap. You see them eating the same food. What's that food? Chef Boy fucking RD.
Where's
Like, are
the
you kidding
incentive?
me?
Where's the incentive to be an engineer
Oh, one second.
under communism?
Wait, it's choice. It's choice. It's access to resources. You mean to tell me that you don't know anyone who wants to do something, and if they could go to college and had the ability to go to college and get a grant to go to college, they wouldn't do those things?
Where's the
Like, you mean to
self-made
tell me
man?
you don't know anyone who just wants to work on cars? You don't know anyone who wants to innovate anything? Like, my father created a deer stand with 4 pieces of plywood and a tent stick. Like, are you telling me that people don't have the ambitions to do things for their hobbies so that they can get better at their hobbies?
I wanna piggyback off of that, Sean.
Before you do
I
that,
wanna.
I did want to give Tony a chance to respond, because like it's only Tony and make sure everybody have an equal opportunity. Tony, did you want to respond?
Well, the first point he was making was
she. Sean's pronouns are she, her.
Yeah. Okay. So the first point was, you go onto the beach in Cuba and you've got aeronautical engineers selling popcorn because they've got free education. I'd like to point out that we basically have free education up until the age of 18 here in the US. And most kids are not going to be smart enough to be aeronautical engineers. Those who are will normally get grants. Now, I'll take you back to Europe.
Hold on, time out, because that's dishonest.
But why?
Like, the
Hang
whole
on,
point.
RTP. Seriously, every time I talk, everybody's going to
because
cut
that's
me
this.
off,
Wait,
right?
because
Now I
that's a
get blamed.
dishonest.
I get blamed for talking over people.
Wait, but it's
right?
because
I
it's a
get blamed
dishonest
for talking over.
comparison, bro. Like,
I'm
you're saying.
addressing what he stated.
He
He's
stated.
clearly please RTP. He clearly stated
Wait,
hold on, wait,
Cuba.
It's a dishonest.
Engineers are
Quick
on
time
the
out.
beach.
Quick time out. I think it may be a miscommunication here. One, Sean's pronouns are she, her. Two, what is your understanding about what she said? I think there just might be a miscommunication here.
Tony thinks I was talking, but Sean was talking. Tony, you thought you were talking to me for a second. You thought I had butted in, but it was Sean. I didn't say
I
anything.
don't even know where Sean is on there. I can't see.
I'm trying
can't
so
see
hard not to
Bob.
laugh.
Right under RTP.
This is so funny.
So here, how about this? Sean, what is the go ahead, Sean, and then because I don't want the misconception. We're having a great conversation.
It's just a dishonest argument. It's a dishonest thing to rebuttal with. Like, the idea that we have free education up to 12th grade, as if in 12th grade you can get an aeronautical engineering degree, is laughable. Like,
right. See, but you never
reason
let
as
me
to
finish.
why-
My point was I could go to Europe because you're talking about the same thing. You could go to Europe, so don't bring Cuba. If we're talking about America, keep it to the US, because I could go to Europe and I could go to Great Britain and I could go to Scotland and I could go to France, where their university baccalaureate degrees are every bit as advanced as the Cuban ones are and better. And we still don't have more than 5 aeronautical engineers, because the reality is most kids are not smart enough, no matter how free the education is. So you're saying if we make education free to everybody, we will have better educated people. That clearly is not the case.
Wait, this is dishonest. This is super duper dishonest. Like,
Why
the
is
issue
it dishonest? You
because
cannot
what you're
provide
doing,
any
what you're doing.
Wait, real quick,
suggest that.
Tony, 1 second. We got it because it's live, this TikTok. We got to be able to let Sean finish. Sean let you finish. Now hear her full response, and then we'll go right to you, and then we'll jump down to Crow. I see your hand up. And then, Ed, I saw you on mute. You can go right after Crow. No, I lied, because Jovan was up. So let's go. Let's let Sean finish.
But I was
Right.
trying to ask Jovan a question like 15 minutes ago, and you said you can go next, and then I wasn't doing it.
It's 8 people on the panel, bro. Doing the best I can here, okay?
I also got to head to bed soon, so
Okay.
be quick.
I got you. So here, how about this? Let's go Sean, Tony, Jovan, Ed. Or Ed and Jovan. I don't know how y'all want, if you got questions, whatever. But let's do that.
You can go before me.
Okay. Go ahead, Sean.
I'm gonna be super duper quick, but I don't know what fallacy this is, but this is just a fallacy. Like you haven't brought about like any actual research to show that this is true. That there's not a lot of aeronautical engineers in England or Scotland or wherever else has like free higher education, and you haven't even brought forth any like factual evidence that it would be better than a degree in Cuba, because there's a reason as to why Cuba's number one export is doctors and England's number one export is, I don't know, Brexit. But like the point that I'm making here is that like you are just saying that kids aren't smart enough to get degrees, and that is demonstrably false. Like when college becomes free, more people go to college, and that pushes out more degrees, which in turns makes smarter people because it allots them the resources to be smarter people. Like you cannot sit here and say that a country that incentivizes capitalism doesn't do as good as a country that incentivizes communism, and that proves that like schooling is shit. No, it just proves that capitalism is shit. Even if this were true, it would just mean that even free college in a capitalist country would be shit because capitalism is ass. Any other place in which they have free schooling, like the schooling is fucking outmatched, or like it is fucking outmatched in every single capitalist country. Like in Vietnam, better degrees, smarter people, higher reading levels, higher life expectancy, like better exports. Like in China, better degrees, smarter people, higher life expectancies. In Cuba, better degrees, better exports, better life expectancies, like what are you talking about? Kids are smart. Capitalism sucks.
Sean is so cool.
She ain't with that low key.
Well,
Y'all are too kind.
what you said was utter nonsense. One, we have the finest higher education.
It was brilliant.
We have the highest education standards here in the US for graduate and postgraduate degrees. I don't even have to go any further. We have the top 10 universities. Just put it into Google where the best 10 universities are in the world. They'll come straight up in the US. We have a higher graduate rate here in the US than certainly most countries do in the world.
No, we
China is a different animal altogether. But the idea that we have that these countries you just said have better exports, they have better manufacturing, they have better GDP, they have better standard of living, they have better life expectancy, that is complete and utter nonsense.
So I don't, just to be fair to the dialogue, right? It seems that this is between Jovan, Sean, and Tony. And so like I just want to ask panelists just to be fair. Let's just hold on 1 second. Because I want Jovan to be able to respond. I know he's going to bed soon. And then Sean and Tony, y'all can have this dialogue.
Yeah,
I gotta go pretty quick too, just so you're aware.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just got one thing, and Ed, we can reconnect another time to finish ours, but it's hitting late, so I gotta go to bed.
You can just DM me if you have free time or whatever. It doesn't matter.
I just want to point out a few things. The idea that under a communist structure, people would have no incentive to work is like ridiculous, because we had incentive to work prior to capitalism. Our incentive to work 9 times out of 10 is survival. Our incentive to work 9 times out of 10 is for a sense of community, right? There's a reason why when people retire, they get jobs afterwards because they want to continue to do things. There's a reason why people volunteer their time, right? Because humans always have a need to be doing something, and you can even see microcosms of this in different communal spaces. Like look at modding communities in video games. Half of the time these people are never getting paid, but they do monumental amounts of labor just because they want to make something cool. Innovation doesn't happen under capitalism. Innovation happens when people don't want to work. That's when they innovate. The guy who invented the cart invented it because he was tired of dragging around rocks all day, right? The wheel was invented because it was easier to do labor. So this idea that innovation only happens under capitalism is nonsense. Capitalism never innovates. We make the same thing over and over and over again. Billionaires aren't the ones making new products, right? They're not the ones making these massive shifts in the way we change, integrate with society or anything. The people that are doing that are the people who are broke in their basement, who are just fiddling around with something and want to try something new. So I just feel like we constantly bring up these capitalist points and never talk about how they're just factually untrue.
Then why aren't those inventions being made in the basement being given for the better good of everybody?
Because they're bought out by major companies who will not let them go free. Look up the amount of inventions.
I didn't say what. I said why.
I'm literally answering your question. I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question, Tony. Let me answer your question. Let me answer your question.
Money.
Let me answer your question.
So,
if you look up the patents that are being sat on that companies buy and then refuse to put out, even ones that will change the game and make things easier for people, it's a staggering number.
You can put my name into Google. I have loads of patents.
Did I say you?
Right.
Did I say Tony? Did I say Tony?
I am giving you.
Did I say Tony?
The advantage
let me
is
finish?
I pay
Tony,
patent attorneys to file patents.
Tony, I swear to
so
God.
you do not have a patent, correct?
Tony, I swear to God.
Tony.
Again.
Tony. So let's go back and forth a little bit. We got to be able to let Jovan finish.
Are you going to tell me that we've got a cancer patent out there that cures cancer? But
did I say that, Tony?
But you just said about you just said we are keeping patents off the market.
I'm gonna let y'all have it.
I feel like you don't. I feel like you don't listen.
You stated all those people keeping patents off the market. We're doing it to hoard. Give me one patent that's on the market.
They're doing it so that they can suppress.
Give me one patent
Holy shit,
that's
bro.
being suppressed off the market. One patent, because that is not how patent law works.
Hydroelectric power.
Yeah, so this is quite literally such a thing that we have a term for it. It's called patent trolling or patent hoarding. We have a term for it. There is quite literally a term. Okay, there's such thing called, it's a patent holding company. It's a subsidy of larger companies who only exist to hold on to patents.
No,
so this nonsensical. I'm going to keep talking, Tony. I'm going to keep talking. Fun fact.
Well, I'm going to
keep talking, Tony. I'm going to keep talking.
So listen. So Tony, you can respond right after Jovan. I was fair to you. I gave you the one. I'm gonna give this one to Jovan. Let Jovan finish, and then you can respond.
This idea that these things don't happen is just you trying to propagandize capitalism to people. Either that. It's one of two things. Either A, you are just ignorant about it. B, you're propagandizing it. Or 3, I'm going to throw a third one in there. You're dumb. I don't think you're dumb, and I don't think you're ignorant about it happening. I think that you engage in doing it, and you don't want people to know you engage in doing it, so you're purposely trying to propagandize the stuff you do, right? Patent holding exists. It's a real thing. So to sit here and claim that it's not is the most disingenuous thing that I've ever heard in this entire life.
And before you respond to that, we have hit 100,000 likes. Actually, 104,000 likes. We have infamous artist Dantrell Bonet Boone. You were right after this. Crow, are you gonna do it now, Crow?
I just needed to say something. I got to jump off of here. I got to go and do a court thing tomorrow, and so I got to jump off of here. And so I was just going to jump on the back of Jovan really quickly, make a quick point. One of the assertions that was made by Tony is the assertion that in a society, in a communist or heavily socialist society, we would all drive the same vehicle, we would all do the same thing, and it would all be bottom of the barrel. That's so far past the point of human innovation. I mean, some of the greatest innovations that we've had were made for bored people in basements. I mean, why did the Wright brothers invent flight? It wasn't until after they had done so. It wasn't until way after they had done so, after they completed that dream, that they started filing patents and that the government started getting involved. Prior to that, they were just doing it because they were bored. They wanted to fly. They saw a dream. They had a dream. They wanted to do it. We've seen that with Jovan mentioned video games. A lot of people invent video games not for the payment, because they want a better game. Because they see AAA studios that are consistently failing. They're like, hey, I can make a better game than this, and they do. And then the money doesn't come till later. The money doesn't come till later. Most of the time, the aspirations for that type of thing don't come till later. And so the idea that in a communal society that we would not have any sort of innovation or any dreams or any people that are exceeding expectations just because they want to, that's just insanity. That's an absolute disconnect from reality. We see it every day in cars. We see it you said cars specifically, we'd all be driving Volkswagens. I guarantee you there is a redneck out there somewhere that is going to build an engine that's going to make that Volkswagen go entirely too fast. Why? Because he wants to go fast. Nothing else. And so let's not pretend that innovation is stifled at all, and don't pretend that we would all be driving bottom of the barrel and everything would be bottom of the barrel. That's just not the truth. Anyway, I land my plane there. You guys have an excellent night. Dantrell, I'm waiting for the reveal. I'll be in the comments watching, and I appreciate everybody that had me up. You guys have a good one.
I also have to head out as well, so I'll be in the comments. Well, I won't be in the comments, but I'll be listening while I fall asleep.
Thanks for coming up, Jovan. Appreciate you, my boy.
Bye, Jovan. I love you.
Stay cute and cool. Have a great summer.
All right, Dantrell.
Man.
Real quick commercial break. We have an awesome bill. We hit 100,000, 104,000, almost 105,000 likes. Appreciate everybody who tapped the screen. Appreciate all of you. Go ahead, Dantrell. The floor is yours.
Okay, so recently the new line of Dantrell Bonet Fine Art is actually the new collection is actually a spin-off from the first collection, because the last painting was called of the police state was called the point of sight, and it was point of sight number 1. People loved it so much that I did a point of sight number 2, which I did in this particular live about 3 days ago. The painting was so dynamic that the original sold in this live for a huge amount, and the prints, the limited edition lithograph prints, are selling off the shelf. For the last 24 hours, I've sold, for limited editions, this is fast too, I've sold 22 of them. Limited edition prints are the next thing to the original, just put it like that. And so I said I'm gonna do a number 3. So today I woke up, black canvas, drew it out, and here it is, point of sight number 3.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's the eyes. And the basketball jersey. The hair and the waves, the texture. Of course, Sankofa for symbolism.
Yeah, so point of sight is the fact that of the people actually speaking with their faces saying, we see what's going on now. Our eyes are open. We see, and you'll see in point of sight number 2, she's holding her eyes open. He's actually pointing towards what he sees. But he's saying he's not looking at what he's talking about. I'm going to show you what he's doing. He's saying, see, I know that problem is over there. And he's looking at the world eye to eye saying, I see that shit. Exactly. So, limited edition prints, y'all know limited edition prints are immediately available. The coveted number 1 is the first one that's available. So if you want to hold the first one, Original People owns the first print of point of sight number 1. I mean number 2. So whoever wants to own point of sight number 3, the original, the first one, it's on the block now. Y'all go ahead. We get back to the
That's amazing, bro. That's a phenomenal piece. You're the most talented guys I've ever met.
Thank you.
So, John, welcome to the panel. You had a lot to say. I see you, Ed. But John had a lot to say in the chat. He had a whole lot to say, John.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So what's your take on the conversation so far?
I don't know. I mean, like everybody has their opinions and everybody has, facts and everything to back everything up. It's interesting to me that, we have been a capitalist society for quite a while. But everybody that is tending to shift over to socialism, it's been proven that there is not a better process or a better system than capitalism. So communism is not better.
Where was that proven?
Hey, wait. Before we go to that, are you saying that we are shifting to socialism, or is capitalism shifting to socialism?
No, I think a lot of the people that live in the United States, a lot of the younger people are shifting and pushing and thinking about being a socialist community.
Oh, okay. Sure. And then we go to RTP. I got you.
There's no proof that there's any other system that is better than capitalism. Capitalism has lasted the longest. It's the best system out of all the systems right now. And it's just been repeatedly proven.
Hold on, Sean, I'm getting popcorn. Can you just stall for just a second?
Hey, RTP, the way my ears perked up, I swear to God.
I sat straight up. My posture is so good right now.
I'll do my my FBI warning. You know how you pop in the movie and the FBI warning comes up and says piracy is a crime?
Yeah.
I do my FBI warning. I will warn this to any capitalist in the room, in the universe. The argument that you don't want to make, like your weakest argument, is the argument of achievement against a socialist. There is no fucking way that you're going to come out on top of this argument of achievement. Are we sure we want to go down this route?
You don't want to go down that hill, John. You don't want to stand on that hill, bro. You don't want to stand on that hill, bro. Just think about what you just said. We're gonna go.
And we've just watched it a lot. Everybody that goes in, they always crash, and so it's just dangerous. And so, as a friend, John, we're saying maybe that's not the road you want to go down there.
It's not. Let's go to Ed. Let's go to Ed. Listen, Ed, to help your bands, because you know not to stand on that motherfucking hill. Go ahead, Ed.
Well, Shit, man. I can't believe.
John, we told you. We told you. We can't say we ain't tell you. We try to be fair here. Afro.
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah, I do the FBI warning. When it comes to systems, I'm just going to list off some shit that I got on the top of my head. When it comes to systems that are successful, capitalism has created success for like the top 1% and the people who own the most amount of wealth. It has increased the wage gap. For the working class people, it has unalived 1.6 billion people since its inception. In its earlier inceptions, enslaved black people. The first capital in capitalism was black bodies. So if you consider this success, then absolutely it has created suffering, it has created death, it has created hunger, it has created conditions in which our climate cannot recover from, and we are going to eliminate life on this planet because of our exploitation of resources. Meanwhile, socialism has created things like renewable energy resources with experimentation of, even though it was essentially detrimental experimentation, someone had to fucking do it, with renewable energy, with nuclear energy. When it comes to the industrialization process, it took socialism 7 times shorter than any other capitalist country to industrialize an entire country that was war-torn. The USSR industrialized 7 times faster than any other country that was capitalist at the time, and it was war-torn. When it comes to things like China, let's move over to China. When it comes to things like China,
Go back
800
to the USSR. The USSR did what now?
Tony, yeah, it industrialized faster than any other capitalist country. But I'm not done yet. I'm not done.
Industrialized what?
I'm not done.
No,
Tony, I'm not done.
I'm asking you a question. You made a statement.
Tony, I'm not done.
What did it
I'm not done.
industrialize?
Tony, I'm not done.
Tony, I got you, Tony. Tony, I've been trying to be fair up here. So hold that question right now.
His sweeping remark gets passed over without a rebuttal immediately.
No,
what
did
the Soviet Union industrialize
He's upset
7
because he
times
knows
faster
that
than?
he understands.
Yeah, Tony, the reason is that over talking gets the live flagged. I be getting banned a lot. That's why. That's why. Like the over talking get me banned.
I'd like to make a point that, and I
hold on 1 second, Ed. Let's let Sean
that you made.
and then you can go. You can go Sean, Tony, and then you, Ed.
Because mine is a little off topic. It's a little sidebar.
Okay, so just so I can show my work on this, right? Here's a statement from China talking about how they eliminated abject poverty in China. When it comes to the achievements, America has yet to be able to do that. They will never be able to do that. And they are the richest country in the world. So you mean to tell me that China, which is not the richest country in the world, can uplift 800 million people out of abject poverty and say, and literally give a statement so that the UN can say that they have lifted 800 million people out of poverty? And if you don't want to take my word for it, take the fucking World Bank's word for it. When it comes to socialism, I'm telling you, this is not the route you want to go down. With Cuba alone being over here, and having more degrees per capita, free education, better education, the biggest export is doctors, the ability to have a higher life expectancy for their average citizens than the United States is absolutely insane for a country that was a banana republic and literally had slave labor before they went on to socialism. The plights of socialism are unfucking matched. The system is unfucking matched. And this isn't even full-blown socialism. This is socialism with capitalistic interests because the world utilizes capitalistic trade routes. You have to utilize currency in order to do this. And to put this in perspective for China, 800 million people, the United States has 300 million people. If you double the amount of people in the United States, it's 600 million people. It is still not the amount of people that China was able to simply uplift out of abject poverty. The housing rate in China for people who own their homes is 90%. The housing rate of people who own homes in Vietnam is 91%. The home ownership rate in Cuba is 95%. The home ownership rating in the United States is 20 fucking percent. It's unfucking matched. There's no fucking way like that you think that this system is better than any other like system that is out there. Like, let's be fucking for real.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a cigarette? I need a cigarette. Holy shit.
Yeah, but like,
I do want to say, we told you, John, that that's not a hill you want to get on, bro.
but I really don't like that particular 800 people out of poverty thing, because they're talking about extreme poverty. And if you match it up to the U.S., there's less extreme poverty in the U.S. than in China. They're talking about $1.90 a day. Everyone in the United States essentially makes more than $1.90 a day. What we're on is, I think it's $6.60 or something like that. That's our poverty line. The Chinese poverty line is
But they can live
different.
on that, Ed. That's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter comparing how much it costs in each place. Like, if they can live on that, if 90% of them own homes, like, they're in a better situation. So, like, if their wage was 25 cents a day, but they lived on it, great. Like, it's not the total amount that you get, right? It's your ability to purchase the things that you need and to be able to take care of your necessities. And if they're better taking care of their necessities on only $1.90, well, then how fucking bad are we? If we're at $6 and like we can't even get people health care, we have an unhoused problem. Like, nobody's owning their homes anymore. They're all going to corporations. How bad are we if they're able to do it on $1.90?
No, I totally agree that the homeowner market is a mess. And if I'm anywhere like full leftist, it's in reappropriating home and making sure everyone in America has a chance to own one. I'm totally with that. We have the resources, we have the houses already. If not, we have the resources to rebuild the abandoned houses, but we don't even need to do that. So I'm with you there. But where I'm not with you is just like the plain untruths of, like, you're talking like people in America are starving to death. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at the statistics, outside of people with anorexia and people who cannot who have diseases where they can't intake certain nutrients and whatnot for whatever reason, nobody in America starves to death. Nobody starves to death.
Malnutrition under
when we're talking about caloric intake, right? Like the Chinese caloric intake is significantly higher than the US caloric intake, and the abject poverty in the United States when it comes to $1.90 has not been eliminated where it has been eliminated in China. Whether we talk about numbers or rates, China is doing better. And on top of that, everything that RTP said plays a role in it. Like, they can live off $1.90. You cannot live off $1.90 in the United States. And on top of that, when it comes to eliminating abject poverty, the point is that China is making strides to make their people's lives better, whilst the US is not, and life is getting worse. The system of socialism is working. The system of capitalism is not.
Tony, are you with us? Or because I keep going to the teacup. I don't know if you're with us. But John,
No, I'm there, and none of you have ever been to China. None of you have worked in China. None of you
Shut
have
up. That's so
corporations
stupid.
in
Who
China.
cares, Tony?
RTP,
Who cares?
You don't. I have a company.
We're talking about
in China.
statistics. Argue the
It's not
statistic.
about
Don't tell us where you've been.
statistics.
We know you're rich and you travel.
RTP.
I don't know whether it was Ed
I'm sorry.
or John
My
that
bad.
said it.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to be fair.
No,
here,
you're not
but-
really sorry. You just like talking over me because you like talking a lot. The reality
I'm very
is,
sorry, Tony.
as they said,
Please
the
forgive me.
reality is China is not doing a better job than what we are. This idea of China taking 800 million people out of poverty tells you one thing. They had 800 million out of 900 million people in poverty. They only have 1.1 billion people. It's just broken 1.2. That meant 80% of their entire population was in poverty. So the small rise that they've had is inconsequential. The idea that 80% of Chinese people own their own home, it's a socialist country with socialist building programs. An average house is literally 15 square feet by 30 square feet, and it will sit 5 or 6 people in there. It's small. In the
Boss,
average house here in the
show a
US,
source.
it is.
Show a source. Show a source.
I'm in bed. I'm not gonna. I'm on a phone.
Right, so you don't have a
What
source.
source?
Excellent. All right, go ahead. Good. Keep on with your point. Keep
This
on with-
idea is right there. The guy's actually got it on there, about 190 a day. They live in abstract poverty in China. What source? I don't know. I have a company with thousands of employees over there. I know what people are being paid and I know what the conditions are in China. This idea that we're worse than China because, we have to be somehow a communist country in order to survive is nonsense.
And this is where the conservative meme comes from, because this is like, you would have to like live, like you're gonna live in your studio apartment, you're gonna eat the bugs, and you're gonna like it because everyone gets their minimum needs. Like that's where that meme comes from in the first place.
But wait, in the U.S., you aren't eating anything, and you're dying of hunger, and you're.
But everyone's eating here. I just pointed that out. The actual amount of people that die from starvation in America every year that aren't anorexic. No, I haven't talked for so long, dude. Can I just finish one fucking sentence? I haven't been rude at all. I've been sitting here quietly. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, Liv. Like, man.
Hey.
Like, my thing is that I don't mind when people speak. It's just don't lie. Like, when I have the fucking World Bank saying that they lifted 800 million people out of poverty, and if you even read the article, you would understand that 800 million people were lifted out of poverty because before they were socialists, China was a monarch in which the Western Hemisphere and the United States, Britain, and France had spheres of influence, and they were imperializing, as well as Japan, and they were imperializing China, forcing them to give away all of the things that they created in order to
let's actually read that.
There's no well.
Hold on, no. Tony, let me go. Let me get one track here.
It's no well. There's no well. There's no well. There's no well. There's no well.
No, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. Let's actually read.
Listen. The over talking gets the live band.
If you don't get this old thing off of me before the
Listen. So listen, I just want to say, let's tap the screen. Yes, and I got you. I've been getting everybody that puts their hand up and says they have something to say. I've been trying to be fair. I got you, Ed. I got you. Okay? I got you. It's just everybody woos out. We're going to try to get these points out. There's a bunch of people on the panel. We're moderating, trying to get everybody to talk, trying to let y'all have your back and forth and dialogues, but also trying to incorporate other people. It's very difficult. Okay? So let's work together on this. Okay? We can make this thing happen. All right. Now,
everyone has monologued for a long time, except for me. I was trying to make one simple point about a thing that Sean brought up herself. Another thing, when someone misgendered her, you jumped on them, but I've been telling you that Crow calling me the wrong name has been pissing me off, and all of a sudden, I don't matter. Am I not? This is supposed to be a leftist space.
I really didn't peep that. I really didn't. I ain't peep that, bro. I ain't gonna lie. If I said something, I would have told him to stop. But I ain't gonna lie to you.
All right, well, I have cooled down completely. I want to get back to the point I was making. The article that Sean brought up said in the last 40 years, it was made in 2022. That means from 82 to 2022. What was the form of what was the form of government in China between 1950 and 1982, roughly 1950 and 1982? That was communism. Maoism failed for China. The Great Purge happened in China during that time. Lysenkoism ruined the entire country. Those 800 million impoverished people were created by communism.
The Great Leap Forward.
That's not true though.
This
Yes,
isn't
it is.
true, and this
The
is what I
Great
mean.
Leap
Like
Forward,
none
the
of them
great
know
60
anything about
million
China.
people,
None of them know
60
anything
million
about
people
China. They're
starved to
making
death.
things up about China. They have
That's the
no
next
idea what
thing.
it is that they're talking about. When it comes to the spheres of influence that were implemented on China before they became socialist, it created a generational wealth gap in which it took a generation to create wealth for that gap. If you take money from somebody in a capitalistic system, it takes, and you take enough money that it creates generational wealth gaps. It takes a long time for people to get back to square one, which is why we still see heavily in the United States, heavy numbers of black people still impoverished today.
Do
Even
you
though
know what
everyone says
Lysenkoism is,
we
Sean?
have, Jesus Christ, I know more about everything than all of you. Just stop. Like,
So you know
literally,
what
just stop.
Lysenkoism is when I brought up Lysenkoism. Tell me what the program of Lysenkoism did to China in the 50s and 60s.
Are you done?
Here's what I'm gonna do. All right.
See, this is the first time you haven't had a lot to say.
No,
The
that's
host
because
is
that's
talking.
literally because I'm talking.
Right.
Don't do that. So here, I'm gonna give y'all 5 minutes. This is y'all time. I just want to make sure I got y'all mics right. It's gonna be you and Ed. Y'all can have y'all time. Can you unmute Ed?
Oh, we can both talk at the same time?
Yeah.
So
Just
please.
everybody else stay on mute. Y'all go ahead. Y'all got 5 minutes.
The issue is that y'all don't know anything about China. You don't know anything about wage gaps, and you're just making things up about these places without looking into any of the details, without looking into any of the articles. Literally, the World Bank said they lifted 800 million people out of poverty, and we already know that China was under these spheres of influences before they became socialist, which created wealth gaps, and they had massive famines before they even did that, and had a massive famine in the 1950s that created a bigger wealth gap for generations to come. And then once they centralized their food production, the West would not trade with them, which created an even bigger wealth gap. And then they finally opened up their economies to say that they're like to say to the West, oh yeah, we're not fully communist anymore. And then the West started trading with them, and their GDP grew exponentially. It was absolutely insane. And then they utilized that capitalistic system to create collectivist systems and uplift their people out of poverty, pretending as if you know anything about China and just making up shit about the rates of housing in China and making up the square footage of houses in China is absolutely insane to me. They're multi-generational homes with 2 stories. Like, they literally own their own homes. The socialistic collectivist program that they utilized in order to give people homes and uplift people out of poverty is a better fucking system. You don't actually have an argument against this, and it's not even my word. Like, it's the World Bank telling you this. It's not even just me. And the idea that it's like, oh yeah, I'm being dishonest even though I'm the only one with sources is absolutely insane.
Oh my God. All right. You good?
Sure.
Okay, so first of all, that's fundamentally wrong in every single way. The Great Leap Forward happened post-revolution. There may have been wealth gaps, I'll give you that. You may be better read on it, but the fact of the matter is they were under essentially the closest to pure socialist heading towards communism as possible. They followed a Russian science called Lysenkoism, which essentially said that plants wouldn't fight for each other if you planted seeds over top of each other, because it would be not advantageous for them to exist in those conditions. Of course, that's stupid, but because people were afraid of Mao, they would literally lift up like fields of food and move them to other fields to make it look like it was successful until people started to starve to death. This was 100% the fault of the ideology that they were under. 100%. There's no arguing about this. The only time they started to make money is when they started ironically enough, to exploit the people who live there. When they got opened up by Reagan, when they started to ship American manufacturing jobs over to China so they could work for 2 cents an hour to make Nikes, is when they actually started to get infrastructure where people could actually live in. And then from there, more recently, they have successfully reallocated that money, where I would give them more credit than they had before. But all of that was built on the death and tears of hundreds of millions of Chinese people.
And you're not the only one with information on China. I lived there 2 years. They targeted landlords and wealthy.
I got it's not everybody.
Psoriasis is back, and I guarantee I will eat psoriasis alive. But
Yeah.
the point here is that like it's not fundamentally wrong. We're just making shit up at this point. Because I said, oh, go ahead. My bad.
No, I was just saying this between you and Ed, not nobody else on mute. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, but when it comes to China, it's not fundamentally wrong. You don't know anything about China. When it comes to Lysenkoism, sure, it was a bad thing. But they still had a famine after they had the revolution because of things that happened with the spheres of influence. I literally said they had a famine, and then one of the first things you said was the Great Leap Forward. What was the Great Leap Forward? It was a fucking famine, which created a larger wealth gap, like a larger generational wealth gap, and the West would not trade with them, and they didn't have enough resources because of those spheres of influence that were put on them that they chased out because of imperialism, and they were anti-imperialists, and the West would not trade with them for pushing out their businesses and imperialism, and they did not have enough resources to feed all the people that they had. It wasn't simply about their agrarian culture failing, it was about the West failing them by setting up spheres of influence and then getting mad at them for pushing out their spheres of influence.
But Sean, you have the timeline wrong, man.
No, I don't.
You do, because Lysenkoism was between 1949 and 1956, and the Great Leap Forward was 58 to 62.
Yes,
Lysenkoism was the original famine. It was caused by communism. It was caused by Soviet science.
No, it wasn't.
Sean,
it very wasn't.
Sean,
and
who wrote that?
And on top of that, even if that were true, let's say Lysenkoism is the reason why they couldn't grow food.
Tell everybody,
Tony, stop. Tony, stop.
Tell everybody who wrote the report.
Tony, you don't have any sources. You have a British accent. You are a cringe, and you are a capitalist. We don't care. Like, you have nothing. You literally have nothing. You can't even address our points. You still haven't addressed my first point. And on top of this, it's between me and Ed. Even if Lysenkoism, let me finish this.
Please let her finish. I'm trying to have this conversation.
Tony, I got you next. I just want them to have this dialogue, and then we can open it up to the rest of the panel. It seems that the audience is really engaged when I give the people what they want, man. As a capitalist, I hope you understand that. You got to give the people what they want. They want to see this dialogue. Go ahead, Sean.
Even if I were to concede and say Lysenkoism was the cause of the Great Leap Forward, it would still be an issue of westernized trade because China could not provide for all of their people. But it wasn't. It was the centralization and pushing out of I was going to say industrialization and the pushing out of motherfucking, when you take, what the fuck is it called? I just fucking said it. When you take resources from a country, make a product, and then sell that product back to that country for higher price than imperialism. That's what it is. It was due to pushing out imperialism and keeping resources away from the quote unquote communist West. And that's how the start of like the entire, because we had the whole Red Scare thing happening and we wouldn't trade with socialist countries.
But China didn't want to trade with us. That's the thing. Like, China wasn't open to us. They were isolationists. They had the Soviet Union they could trade with, but both of those countries couldn't sustain each other because they didn't make enough. There just wasn't enough positive outcome from these places and their ideology and their economic output. It just wasn't enough to feed all these people. Furthermore, I'm not even saying that Lysenkoism caused the Great Leap Forward. The Great Leap Forward was 2 years after Lysenkoism. That was a separate failure with agricultural collectivism failing. That wasn't Lysenkoism. Lysenkoism was the first failure. It's a list of several failures over and over and over again.
Wait, that makes no difference, because I said even if I concede Lysenkoism, like it led straight in, it would still lead straight into the Great Leap Forward, and the rest refusing to trade with China. And I never said like the U.S. in particular, but the U.S. did refuse to trade with China, and so did Britain, and so did France, and so did Germany, and so did all of the westernized superpowers that were supposed to be trade and that set up spheres of influence in China. Like, what are you talking about? Like, when it comes to globalized trade, like the idea that the USSR didn't have enough resources to support itself, then how come later on in the years they were able to send $8 million of government subsidies a day to Cuba? Like, what are you talking about? They were able to sustain themselves. China didn't want to trade with the US because the US makes trade deals like this. Let us imperialize you, and then we'll call it trade. And China said no. It's the same thing that the U.S. is doing today in the Congo. If the U.S. draws up a deal that imperializes Congo, and the Congo says, no, we don't want to do that, this is imperialism, the U.S. attacks the Congo. Like, what China does is that they wanted deals. And once they opened up their economies and allowed for other westernized countries to actually come in and say, oh yeah, we will actually trade with you, then they had enough resources. It was an issue of the imperialism, not an issue of the communism. The communism.
Why wouldn't they open up? Why wouldn't they open up in the first
quick,
place?
Ed,
Because of the opium trade.
So I do want to say this real quick. So Ed, I want you to respond, and then we're gonna go up to Sorcy. Go ahead, Ed.
Right. So my question would be, why weren't they opening up in the first place? I don't know if it's the opium trade, so I don't want to hang my hat on that. The reason is because they were isolationists outside, and also you keep up bringing up Cuba, and like, first of all, Soviet Union funding Cuba is a lot different than Soviet Union supplementing China. We both know that. Second of all, they only did it because it was advantageous to the Soviet Union. And once after the Bay of Pigs failed, once after the Cuban Missile Crisis failed, they left Cuba high and dry. They were paying 11 times the regular price for sugar from Cuba, and it was also an unsustainable deal. These are things that you can just look up on Wikipedia, let alone Google. This is like the surface value fuck-ups of communism and, I know it's not real communism, but of the socialist projects of the USSR and the countries surrounding them at that time. And that doesn't even start about the ones that were just pure brutalization when you talk about stuff like the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia and Laos and stuff like that, which is just massacres. Like the failures of these things are on paper for everyone to see. They're the most brutal, they're the least feeding people, and they're the least innovative places in the history of mankind.
Facts. This is absolutely false and fundamentally false. Like, when it came down to the USSR, I'm about to blow this out the water at the core. The USSR, until it collapsed, gave $8 million of subsidies a day to Cuba, and they didn't collapse until 1991. The Cuban Missile Crisis happened in the 60s. You have no idea what you're talking about. The Cambodia was backed by the US CIA. There's literal CIA documents to show that they backed Pol Pot. He was not a socialist in any way, shape, or form. And when you talk about the least innovative places, you still haven't addressed the issue of innovation in these fucking places. I gave you a list of fucking successes, and you just said, nah, and the sources fucking trust me, bro, whilst I'm bringing up the World Bank and actual things from China. And when it comes to $8 million of government subsidies a day, it's not really that different. The reason as to why, like, China and the USSR didn't have trade with each other was because there was fundamental differences in China and the USSR, even though they did have some form of like alliance when it comes to the West and pushing out the West and imperialism. The issue with them was is that they backed different countries. Like, the USSR wanted to back places like Vietnam, whereas China wanted to back places like Cambodia. And Cambodia and Vietnam did not see eye to eye for very obvious reasons. I just talked about Pol Pot. So, like, what you're talking about doesn't actually make any sense, especially when you put into the perspective of Korea, because Korea, when it comes down to it, has the exact same issue that China has. Like, the West won't trade with them. And so they are isolationists because the West won't trade with
You're
them.
talking out of both sides of your mouth.
One second, Ed, give me 1 second. We gotta get Source in here. Go
I
ahead.
can't believe what I'm hearing. I honestly can't. Thank you, host. I can't believe what I'm hearing. The evidence against communism is overwhelming. The attacks in China, I lived there, the attacks, and I heard the stories, the attacks in China that were against the landlords and wealthy peasants by Mao, targeting millions